We will now begin the City of Boynton Beach City Commissioners meeting. Would everyone please rise by invocation by Commissioner McCrae, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Romulus.
Let us bow to the Creator and Maker of all mankind. Father, here we are once more again, asking for your guidance as well as your leadership as we partake to do business by this great city and also in this great world which you created. Let us be cognizant of how we say things and what we say. Let us know that we are our brothers and sisters' keeper. As I stand tonight, I'd like to lift Mr. Sonny Garcia and his family up in prayer on the passing of his son. Also, Brother Kerry George and his illness. Continue to strengthen these families as you know how and as only you could do best. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Stephen Grant.
Here.
Vice Mayor Justin Katz.
Here.
Commissioner Mac McCrae.
Here.
Commissioner Christina Romulus.
Present.
Commissioner Joe Casello.
Here.
All present.
May I have any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
I have one, sir, and this is an informational item I would like to have added on. And the information item is I need an update on the debris pickup here in the city of Boynton, and also as we get that, I'd like to have it delivered to us in quadrants so that we will know what is going on here in our city, because I'm getting a lot of phone calls. Thank you.
Commissioner McCrae, would you like to have item F under announcements, an update from Public Works?
That would be fine, sir.
All right.
I had a future agenda item, discussion of public art.
All right. And so that will be item H.
I would also add actually, never mind.
All right, and I would like to move up the city under City Manager's Report, item B, presentation of full year 17-18 strategic plan initiatives by Trina Pulliam as item in front of public audience. I spoke with her before. She said she would stay for public audience, and so that if anyone has any questions regarding our strategic initiatives, she would be able to respond afterwards. Is everyone okay with that?
Well,
All right.
and I'd like to pull 6E off the consent agenda for discussion.
All right. I will ask again when we get to consent agenda.
Okay.
May I have a motion to approve as amended?
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Commissioner Casella, would you like to begin with informational items?
I have nothing to report.
All right. Commissioner Romulus.
Yes, I met with a few individuals from e-containers. This is a shipping...
Can you speak up a little louder, please, because I'm like having problems.
Can everyone hear me now? Good. All right. So I met with the individuals from the shipping company called e-containers. Well, they're not actually a shipping company. They are a home building company that uses shipping containers to build homes. So I know here in the city, well, personally, one of my missions is to increase affordable housing, increase adequate housing for Boynton Beach residents and residents of Palm Beach County as a whole. So this is a company that I look forward to seeing their progress here in South Florida. They're based out of Miami. In addition, I met with Habitat for Humanity in regards to a couple of lots that they're interested in purchasing from the city. So that is all I have for now. Thank you, Mayor.
On October 4th, I had a meeting with regarding Bloomberg Philanthropies Mayor's Challenge, and I met with some representative from Hunter's Run. On October 5th, I attended the literacy luncheon, and we will be having our Read for the Record this Thursday. I think we are 4-time champions, so I'd like to thank staff in advance for all of their hard work in reading to the local children. I attended the ribbon cutting for I Love Kickboxing off of Congress Road and Gateway. I was there at the opening of our Movies in the Park, the first Friday of each month, to see Descendants 2. On 10/10, I met with the Boynton Beach Garden Club, and the city and the Garden Club are working together to help renovate the city garden park on Seacrest and Northwest 6th Avenue. I attended the police awards ceremony. On October 11th, met with Mac Bernard for the Mayors and Managers Conference. Attended the League of Cities District 2 and 3 meeting, and attended the King Tides Cruise regarding the sea level rise and what a city can do to help stay what is going on in the pollution. I met with local bankers at SunTrust, Iberia, Flagler, and AmTrust, and attended a meeting for Healthier Boynton Beach. On October 16th, I spoke with WLRN News about medical marijuana. I took a tour of the historic high school, and today I attended a legislative delegation meeting over at the Solid Waste Authority. Commissioner McCray.
Thank you, sir. I really don't have an update, but I do want to say when I seen you on TV, you know, with the medical marijuana doctor, whatever building it is, right off I-95 after you appeared on TV, that was about 8 people I seen out there taking pictures. I don't know what the reason was, but anyway, I was like saying, whoa, we got one, and I don't remember about it, but anyway, I'm just glad I seen it. Okay, the next thing I need to bring up is that although we have read for the records coming up, I don't know when am I supposed to be reading. Was somebody supposed to contact me? If so, I have not gotten a contact yet. And I have a 10:30 appointment, so I'll be waiting for whoever's supposed to contact me. That's it for me, sir. Thank you.
All right. Vice Mayor Katz.
Nothing to disclose.
All right. Any more informational item? Moving on to our announcement of the Community Redevelopment Agency's 6th Annual Boynton Beach Pirate Fest and Mermaid Splash.
Good day, my lords and ladies and gentlemen, honorable city council and officiants. I am Lord Hyde, Lord Governor of the 6th Annual Boynton Beach Haunted Pirate Fest and Mermaid Splash. And this is my lovely wife, Calliope. Lady Calliope, would you like to say hello to the good people?
Hello, good people.
Very good. My lords and ladies, I am here to proclaim hereto and forthwith that upon this coming Saturday, the 21st of October, and Sunday, the 22nd of October, shall be held the next Haunted Pirate Fest and Mermaid Splash, right here in Boynton Beach. You may applaud. My lords and ladies, I must tell you, this one we have outmatched ourselves from last year's spectacular. There are all sorts of performances all day long, 12 stages. There's Mooney the Magnificent, a acrobat extraordinaire. There are other acrobats about. There is a Wheel of Death. Oh yes, a conjoined hamster wheel contraption where acrobats walk upon it as if it were, well, in the air. And there are all sorts of fire breathers, cannon tears, pirates, of course, many costume characters, like myself and my wife. And, of course, there is activities for the children and all sorts of dancers and musicians that we've brought from all the 7 seas, just to entertain the people and the community of Boynton Beach. And I must tell you, the best part about it is absolutely free. You may applaud again. I think that covers it, don't you?
Husband, you were talking for a month and managed to forget this.
Oh, yes, and flyers with schedules of events and such may be found at the back. We invite you all to come out. I hope you do. I hope you take advantage of this wonderful community celebration. And we thank the City of Boynton Beach for hosting, and the CRA especially for sponsoring this wonderful free family event. Thank you very much.
My question to staff in regards to the Pirate Fest is that are we going to make sure that we have police officers on Seacrest Boulevard again this year?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I'm good.
All right. Next, we have announcement by Recreation and Parks Director about the upcoming holiday events and now accepting nominations for the Holiday Parade Grand Marshal. Catch the holiday spirit by joining us at these wonderful events.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Wally Majors, Recreation and Parks Director. Tonight we want to go ahead and invite the community to help us choose a Grand Marshal for our annual parade. This is a person that has made a positive impact on our community, and it's a long-standing tradition here in Boynton Beach. They can submit their nominations through the city's website. I am going to extend the deadline. The deadline was this Friday, but I'm going to extend that, and I think we'll have no trouble accommodating that because ultimately we want to make sure we can accept as many nominations as possible. The parade, of course, is going to be held on Saturday, December 2nd, beginning at 4 o'clock on Federal Highway, back to our traditional route, at least traditional in terms of a few years ago. And following the parade, of course, will be the holiday tree lighting over at by the Children's Museum. So again, we ask the community to submit nominations for people that you think are worthy of the honor of being our Grand Marshal for the parade. And if you have any questions, of course, you can reach me, or you can call 742-6649 and ask for Stephanie Soplop. Thank you.
Well, I just have a quick question. These nominations, the only way you can nominate somebody is by going to the website, or is there a hard copy?
No, not at all. And thank you for bringing it up, Commissioner. No, we can certainly do it the old-fashioned way. We have the forms that if somebody simply calls us and tells us, look, I'd rather do this, by filling out a form, we'll make it available to them. They can come and pick one up. We can try to get it to them in some manner or form. But ultimately, we want to make sure that we find a way to accept as many nominations as possible. So online is one option, but regardless of what people want to do, we'll find a way to accommodate their way of submitting the request or the nomination.
Nominations close a week from this Friday.
A week from this Friday. I'm going to extend the deadline, yes.
Thank you.
My question is, sir, thank you, is for the city manager, and I need to know, have we reached out to Delray in regards to the holiday boat parade in regards to giving funds this year?
No, sir, the CRA handles that event, so I'd be happy to check with Mike when he's back, because they organize that, and you will make that contact. But I'll follow up with him for you.
Next, we have an announcement. Boynton Beach is hosting a flood awareness workshop on Wednesday, November 8th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at the Intracoastal Park Clubhouse. The workshop will answer residents' questions about flooding and city services. The newly revised FEMA flood insurance rate maps will be on display. For more information, contact Rebecca Harvey, Sustainability Coordinator, at 561-742-6494. The flyer is available at the back of the chambers. Next, we will announce that the city will be holding a project update for the community on the Town Square Project Phase 1 on Wednesday, November 1st, 2017, from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. in the library program room. Next, we will schedule and announce a special meeting of the City Commission and the CRA for discussion and consideration of Town Square Phase 2 contract. Staff recommends a special meeting be held prior to the November 7, 2017 regular City Commission meeting to allow enough time for presentation and discussion of the Phase 2 contract documents. Staff recommends the special meeting begin at 4 p.m. Is that okay with the board?
I likely won't be able to make it on time. I've got contract negotiations with the school district until 4:30, which means I might be able to get down here by 5 if we stick with that date.
I'm okay with it.
Commissioner Casello,
No problem.
you're okay with being late?
Sure. Just as long as.
We understand.
Right.
Yeah, we won't penalize you.
And like I mentioned when I had sent you all an email Friday, that it's to get the notice out and to get it properly advertised for the public. There's still a what if on whether or not they're going to be ready, so we may postpone it. But I just wanted to, in the event that they are ready, I wanted to have this on the books. So I'll know more probably by Friday as to whether or not we'll make that date. If not, we may be looking at mid to later November.
Next, we have an announcement from Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Jeff Livergood, Director of Public Works and Engineering. And it's
Right, excuse me. Mr. Livergood, before you start, the reason I requested this is that I was watching the news today, and they said that, solid waste is saying that we got 2 years of cleanup that we're cleaning up now. And I've been getting phone calls from people in different quadrants of this city saying, what is taking so long? And the reason I wanted this discussed tonight is so that the newspaper, which like to publish interesting things, can publish this and say, this is where Boynton is, and this is where we are with the quadrants, and this is the time of cleanup. I was a little appalled when I found out that nothing went out in the mail, telling individuals not to put, besides their shrubbery, not to just throw everything together. I think this is where we let the ball down. But I'm just saying, hopefully we won't have another Irma. Hopefully we won't have another hurricane, but I'm just saying, we can get community standards. When they're riding around, if they see people with beds and sofas and just said, I'm sorry, but you're not helping the project. I met with Mr. Woods today in regards to the project that we had today over in my district, and I want to say, sir, publicly, thank you. I do see what you're doing. You all are reaching out to the public, and you are an asset now. You are not trying to find people for what they're doing, and I appreciate that, sir. Thank you. Job well done, one-on-one. People like to say that I never give kudos to people when I work with them, but with you today, sir, you're top-notch. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Give you a brief update because I can get fairly long-winded with this. We calculate at this point we're approximately 70% by volume complete with cleanup in our city. We have made one pass, and in most cases 2 passes, cleaning up clean vegetation. And Commissioner McCray, you absolutely hit it on the head there, that a lot of the debris that we're finding is mixed debris, and that's caused us some delay in our removal process. We'll discuss that a little bit later as to what we can do for future years. Our garbage schedule is, for the most part, back on schedule, the Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday routes. Some residents are choosing to put more debris and more landscape waste into the carts, so our volume is heavier. So sometimes the Monday extends to Tuesday, the Tuesday to Wednesday, but by Saturday we've got all of the garbage collected from the carts. Our recycling is back on schedule. Our bulk trash is where we're not on schedule, and we're finding that that's some of the biggest complaints. The bulk trash can include most household items. When somebody brings out a mattress, a couch, a refrigerator, those types of items. We're finding that those are continuing to come out since the hurricane and even today. And so if I was to ask the residents any favors, please withhold any large items until we're completely cleaned up. We do have a contractor with 2 trucks, I believe, in our community still cleaning up clean vegetation. We have to use the contractors for those items. We're using all of our own city forces, and thank goodness we've got the assistance of the utility department providing us some trucks. So we're picking up mixed debris. We anticipate being complete with all of the mixed debris and the bulk, and the majority of the bulk trash. I want to say the bulk of the bulk. The majority of the bulk trash by Saturday as well. Our goal is to start back on our regular routes by Monday. I'm not going to declare that we're complete because we know that we won't complete most of the routes when we begin on Monday. But our goal is to start a process where we know where we are, and we're going to continue through that process rather than jumping from neighborhood to neighborhood as we are. With respect to the jumping, we're working in the area off of Seacrest, north of Boynton Beach Blvd today and tomorrow. We're going to be moving to Chapel Hill and Gulfview Harbor Estates through the weekend, and other areas on the south part of the city where we've got a number of mixed debris loads. We're going to concentrate on that through Saturday. Again, I'm hoping that we're going to be caught up, that we can start our regular routes. And if I was to ask anything again from the public, if you don't need to throw bulk items away, please don't. Last thing, it's consistent from storms. As we get 5 weeks into the collection, and I remember very clearly the storms of 04 and 05, it wears on all of us. And I think that we all as residents become impatient when we want to see our streets clear. We know that at the process started, it was going to take upwards of 60 days, and I think we'll beat that. But it's still frustrating for someone, we recognize that. When you're first to have your debris collected, it can be very frustrating because many residents don't have time to put it at the curb when you're there 3 days after a storm or 4 days after a storm. Likewise, when you're the last to be collected, it's frustrating as well. So it's not everybody can be at the ideal time for the collection. but we continue to methodically move through the community. We think we're making great progress. And what I've learned from it is I have an awfully talented staff. These guys are very good at picking up the debris, and I'm proud of them.
I'd like to say thank you, sir, for your update, and I want to be the first to say that after you all did your first pass through District 2, people went out and put out more, and I'm like saying, whoa. So I'm just saying, you know, that was a problem, like with educating the public, and I just want to get an update so we'll all be on the same page when someone calls us and say, what are you all doing here in the city of Boynton? You all are doing an exceptional job. That's the way I see it.
And from the very start, we had a very concerted effort to notify the community because some of the rules this year were different from the Solid Waste Authority than we dealt with in the past. And they're even different as we're dealing with the mixed debris loads. So we've had to adapt how we use our contractors and use our own staff in order to address those concerns and the issues throughout the community. We know going forward next year that we're going to have to do different techniques to inform the community, perhaps when we're in the cone, expectations of what should or should not be placed prior to the storm. If everybody remembers, the storm hit Saturday, Sunday. That came after a holiday weekend. Monday was the holiday of Labor Day. The National Hurricane Center, starting that weekend, hit their forecast on the nail. They just nailed it. And that gave everybody in the community ample time to prepare for their homes and prepare for the hurricane. It gave people so much time that they prepared by doing the last-minute pruning and throwing the last-minute items away from the patio that they didn't want to blow away, that there was no way that we could collect all of that material by Saturday or by the last day, Friday, that we worked. So that's a frustration that we had. We're going to have to try to work through that with notifications in the future.
With your notification at the beginning of hurricane season for next year, I think it'd be nice if we have a pamphlet that goes out to each household saying this is what you should and should not put in the event that we are faced with a hurricane. I'm just saying, you know, we need to educate citizens in the city of Boynton, and we have a lot to be thankful. I work in Broward County, and I've been going there for 2 months now, ever since the hurricane was, and I'm passing by trash that's been there ever since it started. So when I look at their trash, and I do smile. So that's all I need to tell you.
Well, we see the debris totals, and I think you all have seen some of those that the Solid Waste Authority puts out, and we're very high on the number of cubic yards delivered. So we're doing very well.
Speaking of which, I know that we have to do a report for FEMA to get some of that get costs back, and so if you could make an announcement at City Commissioners of all the trash that was picked up, that would be appreciated.
We will have a final tally, but the most important component of that final tally is every I dotted and T crossed as we deal with our time, our force account labor, our contractor load tickets. Those are the most important components in our staff. They are doing a wonderful job keeping track of every penny so that 6 months from now when we start arguing with FEMA, we've got a very good case for reimbursement of every penny.
Great. Thank you so much for all that you've done.
Well, not every penny. We're going to up to, they raised it to 90% on a Fed level, and then we split the last 10% with the state.
Great.
Let's be optimistic, up to every penny. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if you'll allow, Jeff, thank you for your comments and for all your work that you and your department are doing. While we're on the topic, if we could have the Director of Community Standards, Mr. Woods, come up. I do have a couple of concerns I'd like to address post-Irma.
Yes, Madam
Mr. Woods, I've received several complaints regarding some of our community standards officers that are starting to cite and basically ticket or go after individuals based on lawn issues or other situations going on that perhaps are still aftermath of Hurricane Irma. So can you, I guess, just address that and tell me what is the protocol for what our community standards officers are following right now after the storm?
Yes, Commissioner. Mark Woods, Director of Community Standards. Based on the commission meeting that we had a couple meetings ago, the commission did decide that we would do a moratorium of sorts for our community standards and relaxing those efforts. To that end, we've since gone out into things that are related to the storm we have not been citing. Things that are relative to violations that would have existed outside of the storm and its effects, we do cite. So if people are getting citations for rotted fascias, then yes, they're still getting those. If it's overgrown grass, yes, they're still getting that.
I'm not sure how that applies if you're considering having a pile of garbage sitting on a person's lawn and they potentially can't get to it, or whoever their lawn maintenance individuals are that do their lawns for them can't get to it. How do we address, or how do we justify that?
Each case has to be based on its own merits, and it's based on that inspector's evaluation of the circumstances when they get there. I can't speak specifically to what you're talking about, but I can say in general what we do is we look at the property and decide whether or not the violations that we see are storm related or not. If they're storm related, we don't deal with it. We may give them an informational, talk to them, let them know what the issue might be, but we don't cite anybody for that.
Well, if my colleagues up here don't disagree with my sentiment, I would believe that based on what we said, perhaps it would be in the interest of the city to look at some residents perhaps who bring up concerns if they get citations and they say, well, this is potentially why I can't do it, and look at that and do it on case-by-case basis, perhaps for this time frame following the storm, because again, this is a hard time for a lot of individuals. Some are out of work, some are kind of just getting back now on a routine, so it's difficult as a city for us to start imposing certain constraints on them just because of what we want to keep as a standard. I understand we have to do these things, and this is why you're doing your job, and so are your employees, but we also have to keep in mind some of these things.
I agree. And to that end, we do it for that end. If someone were to call us and say this is the issue, we definitely take that in consideration. Our entire process has been changed to not immediately go to violations anyway. So if anything, they would have gotten a courtesy notice. So there's nothing more than that what they would have gotten anyway since the storm.
Okay, if you could contact me afterwards so I can send you the information about the resident that raised this concern. Thank you.
Mr. Woods, speaking of that courtesy notice, there is language in that notice that if they disagree with community standards interpretation, they can write a letter and then have it appealed. Is that correct?
A letter, a phone call, walk in, we take it any way it comes. We just need to hear from them.
So if they don't hear from you, then you're going to move forward?
In most cases, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Woods, as you stand there, I'd like to go back. I had a courtesy notice that was addressed to a church, and they was Haitian descent, and they had to come in with an interpreter, and that was a courtesy notice that was presented to them. They brought it in. This is what you and we met on. I also had some cases where individuals called me and said that they was being cited, and they felt like they were storm related, and after the officers went out and explained to them, and they said, I do apologize, it's not storm related, but they said that we will work now to get things in order. So I'm in concurrence with what our commissioner here is saying, but I was in the same boat, but after they presented what was done, they found out they was in violation prior, so I cannot, just say, beat a dead horse to death. I'm just saying, I've had cases and we worked them out, so I'm good.
All right, thank you.
And here's a note right here, and this one here about you need to do something in the morning to a place.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Director Woods.
All right, I forgot, we have a grand reopening announcement of our Boynton Beach links, or the links at Boynton Beach. There's championship course greens and practice areas rebuilt with Tiff Eagle grass, driving range, tee box enlarged and resurfaced with celebration grass. The first 100 golfers will receive a pack of Wilson golf balls, free 15, and for those who are after the first 100, free 15-minute individual lessons with a PGA Pro, putting contest with prizes, 10% off all Pro Shop merchandise, 20% off daily golf fees, and delicious burgers, wings, and dogs for purchase from Chef Peter. This is October 28th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I believe we have a couple of golf tournaments in the city. I believe the Chambers has one this Friday, and our Boynton Beach Fire Department's union has one also on the 28th in the afternoon.
Mr. Mayor, if I just may add,
Yes.
I'd like to commend this commission here for their obligation in helping the golf course. I know we were having some financial struggles with the course a year and a half ago, and this commission made a commitment to infuse some serious money into there in getting it, the greens, to where they need to be competitive. And I can tell you firsthand, in experience, I was out there today and played, that Ron Tapper and his staff have done a marvelous job with this golf course. If any of you golfers are out there, you really need to get out to the links and experience it. I am totally amazed, and it's once again, I'd like to thank this commission for making this happen.
Further announcements? Seeing none, moving on to a presentation by Trina Pulliam from Train Ovations.
Mayor Grant, Vice Mayor Katz, commissioners, staff, and esteemed guests. Thank you for allowing me the time to do this update. I would like to let you know that the city has come far. It's an amazing journey, as I will show you in just a few short years how far that we have come. Do I have slides? Thank you. Awesome. So, this is where we started. So when I started with the city, I took a look at the FY 2015 strategic plan, which was not done by our group, and it contained 156 tasks, like individual line item tasks. So we analyzed those tasks. We had the city staff take a look at them. Where are we? Are they completed? Have they been operationalized? Is there things still left over to do? And by FY 16, our strategic plan contained 17 tasks, which is a much more manageable list of things to be done, but it's still a task list. It wasn't exactly the strategy that I was hoping for. So this is what we've done. We made a huge shift. It's super exciting. Beginning with the fiscal year 17 strategic planning cycle, the city shifted from tasks to strategic initiatives. What that means is, what are the most important things to citizens, residents, businesses, and visitors here in the city of Boynton Beach? We interviewed the staff, we interviewed the commissioners, and we have been allowed to spend time, energy, and funding on the things that actually help achieve the vision and the mission for the city of Boynton Beach. So where are we now? So where we are now is the city has determined that there are 4 overarching major strategies. We would call these strategic initiatives. These overarching strategic initiatives allow yet another cycle of improvement. And isn't that what we want, is to show cycles of improvement? What happens is these initiatives drive the work of the city so that everything that we do is aligned with one of these 4 things. Redevelop downtown, build wealth in the community, Boynton Beach branding, and transportation and mobility. And so that's where we are now and what we are working on. So where do we go from here? The FY 18 work that we will be doing is examining the department's work. So departments will now align their work with these 4 strategic initiatives. And I'm working with David Scott and the departments to determine not only how the work aligns, and some of the work will align to all 4 of the initiatives, some of the work will align with 1 or more of the initiatives, but it will be really important work. And this year we hope to achieve and report back to the Commission this time next year the metrics that we'll be collecting, or the measures that we'll be collecting, to show how far we've come and to actually measure the city in the work that we do. So the metrics actually help us to understand the success of the work that we do. So what's next? So where we go from here and what we've started to work on is to drill down into departments. We will be looking at each department. David Scott has already started. He's got some metrics already collected. My goal is to come up with a process for how we select those measures to determine that those measures matter. With big data available to everyone in the city, we don't want to waste anybody's time. We want to make sure that the measures that we're collecting actually show the success for the city, and we will be working towards making data-driven decisions. And in a few short years, those are amazing and huge steps, and it's really super exciting.
One of my questions is I believe last year we had a 6-month update. Are we going to get a 6-month update regarding full year 2017?
Sure.
Okay. And then we can expand on a little bit how the 4 objectives or strategic initiatives have been applying to, I guess, the 14 different departments within the city.
Yes, we'll have an update on that, and that will be for FY18. So we're
in the middle of,
yes,
in the middle of
yes,
2018, which is next year. Great. Any further questions from the commission? And Trina is going to be here for a little bit longer in case someone has any questions or comments during public audience. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll have public audience. Individual speakers will be limited to 3-minute presentations. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sonny Garcia. I reside at 1631 Northwest 3rd Lane, Boynton Beach, Florida, 33435. I got 2 items I'm going to speak on tonight. First of all is parking on 17th on the grass. The city has signs out there posted, no parking on the grass. These are not being taken serious by people that park there on the sides, especially by the stop sign. I was coming out of my house the other day. I drive slow coming out of that street because there's kids. But I've seen dirt bikes, I've seen cars coming out of there speeding. The other day I almost hit a boy because he ran in front of his mom's van, and I was driving slow. I stopped. But that was me. If it would have been somebody else, they would have hit that boy. We were told that there would be police officers there when the school picks up kids, when the school drops kids off, and so far, I've only seen it one time done. This has to be stopped. Something has to be done. If nothing can be done, something's got to be done. You either put curbs around there where cars cannot park on the grass, they cannot drop kids, or you get with the school board where they can have their kids be picked up at East Hester, and people can park at the park there at East Hester. Because somebody's going to get killed there, just like that girl got killed on 17th. That's what that light is there for. And if y'all care about kids, y'all are going to have to do something about this, because I'm tired of calling the police department about these kids. I'm getting tired of getting calls to the house. Mr. McRae is getting tired of getting calls too, because I know he gets the calls, and I'll tell him, call Mr. McRae, call the commissioner. I'm the vice president of Rolling Green, and I get calls. If you want me to give you your cell phone numbers, I'll give it to them so they can call you instead of me, so this issue can be settled. Another thing is, y'all wanted the cameras back. Okay, you got the cameras back. You say it's going to save lives. I came in and I told you about the countdown timers. You had adequate time to check on the countdown timers. You want to do for Boynton, but apparently you don't want to do for the public. Then countdown timers will save lives, because they'll tell you how many seconds it takes for that light to change. And I showed you a picture. Each and every one of you, I'll send you a picture of the countdown timers. You want to make Boynton safe? Put those countdown timers on the lights. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Mr. Garcia, before you go, I need to address about the parking over on, about the students. Mr. Garcia did call me, okay, and he said that that was an officer who called him and said that they was going to follow through. And I'm going to say this to Chief and also to Lori. Communication is 100% of what goes on. And I'm just saying, he said they wasn't out there. Nobody picked up the phone to call Mr. Garcia. He called me again. I went through that this morning about 8:15. I see no officers. I understand that you all have more to do than traffic, but I'm just saying, if there's anything going to, when somebody tell a citizen what, that's not for me, good. When somebody state to a citizen and tell them what they are going to do, I really expect, you know, as an employee of this city, that, you know, you will keep your word. I'm just saying, because when citizens call me and say if they're not doing what they say, then I kind of have a hard time fighting for you when you're not making me look good and you're making them look bad. So I'm going to listen to them first, and then I come to you, Lori, third, and then I go to staff fourth, which I'm not supposed to. But that's why I like to give people kudos when they need kudos. But I'm just saying, when you tell a citizen you're going to do something, please follow through. And if not, pick up a phone and call them and say, you know, something happened, you know, communication. Thank you.
I know my time is up, but I got one more thing to say. I called the city of Boynton today, and I was going to talk to Captain Kelly and Major Johnson and Sergeant. My mind's a little messed up right now because of what happened to me this week, or last week. The dispatcher told me that none of them were available. I was on my way to mail a special letter to my son's girlfriend. That letter was the death of my son. That's what happened to me last week. I'm not here to talk about my son, but when I call the dispatcher and they say, we're not aware of this, nobody told us nothing, or, you know, and then they can't get a hold of the captain, the major, or our sergeant, you know, that's something else. Somebody's got to be on duty at all times, whether it's here at the police department that can answer the citizens' questions or is available to talk to the citizens. And I'm one of them, and I'm upset because sometimes you all don't return calls. So, you know, you got to wake up and smell the coffee, like I said before. Do for the citizens of Boynton, just like we did, voting you in, and to make sure that you all did the right thing. Well, you all do the right thing for the city of Boynton also.
Susan Oyer, 140 Southeast 27th Way. Commissioner Casello, due to popular demand, here's something for you to read.
I don't know what I'd do without you, Susan.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to Commissioner Romulus. She's going to judge Seacrest Estates Halloween decorating contest and our Christmas/Hanukkah decorating contest entries. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this again this year. It's greatly appreciated. This is our 4th annual decorating contest for the holiday season, so thank you so much. Second of all, as you all know, I'm always up for a good cause, and the newest one I've found is Wands for Wildlife. I encourage you to watch the video at just Google wandsforwildlife.org, and the videos, you'll just die. They're cute little animals, and what this is you take old mascara wands, you wash them with soap and water, you turn them in, you send them up to this charity, and they clean baby animals that they've found, wild animals that need help, and the bristles are just the right size to take all the bugs and dirt and everything, and you can't get anything cuter than these videos. So that's my cause this year during the school year, but I'm also doing it citywide, so I'm encouraging anyone who has old mascara wands, instead of throwing them in the trash, and gentlemen, you might not be a Robert Smith of the Cure fan and do goth at night at some club, but you do have a woman in your life, mother, sister, whatever, and please encourage them to turn in their old mascara wands. There's a box at my family's office at 511 East Ocean Avenue that is Oyer Insurance, and they are taking them in, and then I will send them up once or twice a year. My students are already collecting them. This is just taking stuff out of the landfill. This is not costing you any money. And ladies, we all know we go through 1 to 2 tubes a year, so this is a good thing, if not more. My last thing is that I passed out to you is as we're moving towards the town square, or actually we're running, galloping, whatever term you want to use, we're going very quickly. This is some information from the 1,000 Friends of Florida webinar this last month, and it talks about town character and what we should be looking forward to doing and encouraging within our towns as we go to restructuring, and I thought you all would find this very interesting. If you need the website, just, you all have my email, please let me know. I did put one in there for Colin. If somebody could pass that on to him, I'm sure he'd appreciate seeing that and hit that whole nanosecond of spare time he has in his life. But thank you so much.
Good evening. Barbara Reedy, 329 Southwest 13th Avenue. I would just like to make a comment, maybe ask some questions about our strategic plan since Trina was kind enough to stay. I believe she stayed. I apologize because I've not read the entire plan, so I don't know if my concerns are addressed in your entire plan or not. But off the top of my head, I would say what's being done to encourage citizen/taxpayer participation, transparency, communication, participation, input opportunities. Commissioner McCray tonight has already pointed out something that needed to be communicated to the citizens. So I'm hoping that that's a strain that's addressed in your plan.
Thank you for asking. Yes, I can't address each and every one of those items, but I can tell you that those are items that we talk about at the city staff meetings quite frequently. And how do we work on transportation and mobility in a transparent way? And so that would be one that would walk into or fall under the values of the city of Boynton Beach. In terms of community input, I know that from last year's strategic plan, we discussed, and I believe is being implemented this year, is a resident survey. A community survey. So again, one of the things that we'll be implementing for the first time to allow residents, businesses, and the community to provide input.
Was the community given opportunities to participate in the writing of your plan?
This year, no. We may include focus groups in the future as we look at the results of the community survey. So the steps along the way are being done incrementally, so that we do have cycles of improvement each time.
Certainly, citizen input as far as improvement would be important, considering we are y'all's boss.
Yes, most definitely. And so with the idea that we don't make everything important the first time out, we're doing the community survey, at which point our organization will help the city analyze those results, and then we will discuss or talk about focus groups to validate what we got or what we think we heard in that community survey.
Well, there's community concerns that probably should be addressed and could be included in your plan. So thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Barbara, Ms. Reading, I'm going to go ahead and jump in. We always have focus groups, and we have groups anytime we try to do something here in the city of Boynton. And for something of this magnitude, and I was kind of waffled back as well when they got no citizens for the input, and they said, this is what we want staff and the elected officials to say. And I'm just saying, we only policymakers, and I'm like saying the real people that has to deal with this is the citizens that runs around. And I was kind of baffled that you all did not meet with them, and y'all came in through all and told us that we're doing great in Boynton. And I want to know really how great are we doing when citizens can tell me how great are we doing. That's my concern.
Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, I have a question too, but go ahead, Laura.
And this year, firstly, we did have public workshops in our discussion with the on the strategic plan, and I don't remember how far back we did, but wasn't it within the last 6 months, or has it been that? It's been longer. I have to look at dates,
I believe
but
it was summer of
we're
last
making
year.
a huge. The awkward part of this year is we're shifting hugely from how we used to do it. We used to have probably a 75-page strategic plan that was full with basically a list of things to do. And this year, changing consultants and with the help of Trina, trying to move to more overarching, broader initiatives or vision. Okay, then now that we've identified the 4, and that's with the commission's input, the staff just didn't write it and stick it on a piece of paper. We did have some discussion. We are now then going to move toward developing metrics, taking a look at, like Trina said, what we're doing in our business, what we do, does it meet those 4 overarching goals? Does it fit in those categories? Then we need to develop, how do we measure if we're doing a good job? What does it mean to do a good job? That's what we're now going to take next year to develop. So we're not there yet on the focus groups. We're just going to start with the survey is probably our first step, and that's coming out probably early part of next year. Then we develop focus groups, and we start drilling down on these 4 areas. But they've just been identified very, very broadly. They can be, they're going to be moved and worked on, for the lack of a better word. We have a whole lot of work to do, but this is brand new for us. So that's kind of where we're in the middle of shifting from something very different. So that's really why.
And it is very important to get community input. So it is certainly on my list of priorities for the city, and hopefully we'll be able to move into that direction quickly.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to, excuse me, I need to jump back in because when I did strategic planning and stuff, the stakeholders was included. And I'm going to say to the city manager, I found it difficult now to swallow. They should have been at the table when we was at the table. This is all I need to say because I get complaints from things not happening in District 2, and we're saying that we're making things happen and all this other stuff. Things are not flowing greatly here in this city. And Mrs. Reading, I do agree with you.
Is the 75-page report on the city's website, or?
No, that's our old strategic plan.
Well, I'd like to see the old one.
It's been up on the website. Oh,
okay.
Yeah, it absolutely should be.
Okay.
I will request that they give you a copy, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the new one, too.
Thank you.
Yes, as we continue to develop it. Yeah.
Davis, yep.
Mayor,
I missed something.
Vice Mayor, Commissioners, David Scott, Economic Development. Barbara and I had a conversation, and what we talked about was exactly what Trina and Lori just mentioned. As we move forward, we've identified those 4 overarching strategic initiatives. As we move forward, there will be a lot of opportunity for community input. For example, one of those initiatives is branding. You can't talk about branding without including the community in that conversation. So going forward, as we've said, these are 4 overarching initiatives where all of the departments are aligning all of their activities under one of these initiatives that identified as making Boynton Beach the wonderful city that it is. But as we talk about each of those activities within that initiatives or under those initiatives, there will definitely be a lot of community input. We wouldn't be able to do a lot of the activities that are planned without the community. So while we call it a strategic plan, it is very strategic, but every part of this plan will have very involved community input.
This happens over years. This isn't an overnight. We're making a big change this year, and that's where we're kind of in that middle of. But we'll see that progress as we move forward into the new year. This is brand new for us.
Laura, let me go ahead and address this. I'm just saying, regardless of Mrs. Scott, I do appreciate you for coming down, but I'm going to be blunt tonight. citizens in District 2, they're kind of asking me, they said, what is this guy's job? You know, and I'm still trying to figure it out as well, sir. And you're standing up trying to be like things are going super duper from District 2. When you met over there, sir, I'm just saying I'm getting feedback that's not positive, and I'm just saying until I start feeling positive things from District 2, we do need some things that need to be clarified and straightened out. As far as branding, there's a lot of things need to be branded here in the city of Boynton. And sir, I hate to say it, but you have been branded by District 2. Thank you.
Sorry that's getting so personal, Mayor.
Yeah, well,
That really
leave it
shouldn't be.
Yeah. Moving on. Thank you, Trina.
Did you have a question?
No? Yep.
Okay. William Swiner, 2701 Southwest A Street, Boynton Beach, Florida.
All right, here.
I would like to start off by thanking Mayor Grant, Commissioner McCray,
thank you,
and Commissioner Romulus for actually calling me after I sent an email. I was very disappointed, and the other two who I guess their cell phones are broken or batteries are out or something like that. A couple other things I wanted to talk about. At the last council meeting, there was a mention about lobbyists being on city boards and stuff like that. I would be definitely against that unless you could stipulate somehow in there that all of the lobbyists' clients would be listed and they would guarantee to recuse themselves on any matters that ever came in front of that board where they were involved. On that note, I've always thought too that commissioners, mayors, any elected official should have to recuse themselves on anyone who has ever donated to their campaign, whether it be the corporation, the owners, the employees, fire department, police department, whoever it was that might bring something in front of the city that they would recuse themselves from voting on that item. I just think that would be a lot more open and honest way of dealing with matters within the city. Other than that, again, I'd like to thank three of you for calling me. Commissioner Romulus, I look forward to possibly visiting with you by the end of the week, and we can go through taking a look at Forest Hill Park. And it would be great if we could get an update on the bulk trash collection, because I understand SWA has lifted their...
We had one earlier in the meeting.
Ongoing.
If you listen to the recording, we had one. It was pretty lengthy. And regarding the lobbyist list, it is on the Palm Beach County's website. Every lobbyist has to state their principle. As for the donations from received by politicians, I've actually received donations. You have to declare it, and then it doesn't mean that we're going to vote for them. I voted against people that have donated to my campaign. So, all right, thank you.
Well, hello, good evening. Brian Fitzpatrick, 409 Northeast 1st Street. Excuse me. I wanted to talk to you about a couple items tonight. Number one, once again, the Boynton Beach Housing Authority. I know I sound like a broken wheel, but I understand city staff is very busy right now with the Town Square project, but I really feel that we need to multitask and, if need be, hire a consultant to guide the city through developing, their own housing authority. It's a very complex matter, obviously. But having our own housing authority would bring potentially tens of millions of dollars annually into the city to improve our housing stock. Yeah. Number two, I was very disappointed that we failed to agree on building a new police department in the heart of Boynton. I think, no disrespect to a couple of commissioners who were quoted as saying some of their constituents told them that they didn't like the idea. And quite honestly, I feel that perhaps some of these individuals may have a vested interest in keeping the heart of Boynton in this sorry state that it's in. Having a new PD or a city hall in the heart of Boynton would truly jumpstart development in that community. Perhaps forgive my sarcasm, but perhaps we've developed a community standard for an acceptable level of shootings and murders in the heart of Boynton, and we haven't achieved that yet, so we're still going to let things continue as they are. Sorry for that little dig. The strategic plan, I was sorry to see also that developing the heart of Boynton is not on that list. It seemed to be that it was important a number of years ago. Now it's, there's nothing going on. Anyhow, thank you for your consideration.
Mayor Grant and Commissioners, my name is Cal Warner. I'm with the Searcy Denny Law Firm up in West Palm Beach. We're here sort of at the invitation of the mayor. As we all know, the opioid crisis has affected every city, every municipality, and hundreds, if not thousands, of families in South Florida over the last 10 to 15 years. It's shocking to believe, but now opioid abuse outstrips tobacco abuse in the country. It's also hard to believe, but deaths from opioid abuse now exceed those from car accidents and firearms homicides in the country added together. States and municipalities around the country are now starting to rally together, and they are filing actions against the manufacturers of these opioids. They're filing lawsuits against the distributors of these opioids, all the way down to the drugstores who are delivering these opioids to the ultimate consumers. In 2016, Boynton Beach EMS made 450 opioid overdose emergency calls in this city alone. The expense to your city from EMS calls for opioid abuse and overdose is but the tip of the iceberg. When you think about first responders to people complaining about people who are abusing opioids, halfway houses, your own employees, many of whom you don't even know about, but are on long-term opioids for pain management. The expenses run very, very deep. I only really have 3 minutes, but I wanted to introduce the Commission to the idea that states, municipalities, and cities around the country are considering legal action to recoup the expense to this community of opioid abuse that's been fostered upon it by the manufacturers and distributors of these opioids. You would not be a spearhead in that. You would actually be joining with others. The city of Delray Beach has already hired counsel. Palm Beach County right now is actively talking to law firms about representing Palm Beach County, and many other municipalities in South Florida are doing the same thing. So if anybody's interested, we would love to speak with you. We'd like to know who the point person for that would be in the city, and we are available at the commission or the mayor's request.
All right. I believe, Shauna here from, I forget your law firm's name, the city attorney can get your information or and have you contact you. Basically, we'll get an overall review of the lawsuit from our city attorney and our options available. And I think we can put that on a future agenda item to come back forward. And thank you for informing me of this. I remember I saw the 60 Minutes special on Sunday.
Just this weekend, yeah.
And it was heartbreaking to see what our government, federal government, is doing, where they're allowing millions of pills to be distributed in a city of 5,000. And, we still have certain state laws that are you going under, or is it under federal law?
State and federal.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to look specifically at what is going on and what the actual expense is to the city, because depending upon the municipality, the city, the county, the state, and what you fund in your communities and where those expenses lie, it might make a difference whether you bring the action under state law or federal law.
Hey, what's the name of your law firm again?
Searcy Denny.
Searcy Denny.
Yes, sir.
Are you soliciting the city to represent us in this lawsuit?
No, sir.
It sure sounded like it.
Who are you
you alleging, or who would the class action be filed against?
It's not a class action. It would be an individual suit. There might be some coordination of these cases at the federal level, depending upon
the question is, who would be the
plaintiff?
Plaintiff, yes.
The city of Boynton Beach.
Not the plaintiff, I'm sorry, the defendant.
The defendant? About 15 manufacturers of these opioids and the pharmaceuticals, many distributors of those opioids, and in many of the cases, depending upon who the plaintiff is, all the way down to drugstores and chains of drugstores.
Thank you.
Shauna, I guess, so if they can contact your firm and you can, I guess, give us an overview of what's going on with this sort of lawsuit?
If that's the direction of the commission.
Yeah, what's that? No disrespect, but
well, basically,
I mean, it's public comment. Someone claims that we're invited. Now, as Commissioner Casello kind of pointed out, it sounds like a solicitation.
Absolutely not, in the sense that someone asked if they would like to bring information regarding this opioid lawsuit. There's only information. Searcy Denny is not soliciting us. We may not go with them because of the many times they sued our city. So, so that's kind of where I thought this was informative for the commission to hear and the city to hear regarding the opioid abuse that is going on. And that's kind of where we're at. And with the direction of the commission, do we want to have this on a future agenda item or to let it alone?
Are we still in public comment?
No, we're in discussion now. Okay. Because it's a consensus, really. And seeing how I don't have anybody, I don't think we're going to bring it forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just before you close public audience, I'd like to say to the citizens here in Boynton that these meetings are supposed to be recorded. And I'm going to state up here tonight because I'm hearing a council and elected assistant. Let me rewind. I'm hearing our assistant mayor and the city manager, vice mayor, or whatever, making discussions. Whenever I say anything, I'm going to state it for the record. I let my voice be heard. If you have anything to say about Commissioner McCray, please say it publicly so that it could be recorded.
Okay.
With respect, at a point of personal privilege or whatever parliamentary procedure this falls under, but there was no conversation here. But I think what you might have heard, and I will echo this sentiment, is that it's gotten to a point, and this, call it a warning, I suppose, to the commission. But if the continued use of staff as props to make points in public, persists, I'm going to, on an individual basis, start responding to those attempts to use these people as puppets. These are human beings. They work for the city. If constituents complain about something, then you need to bring that complaint to the city manager. She will bring it to the staff, and they will address it because that's their job. But, the refrain that constituents said this or constituents said that, if we want to be perfectly honest, I bet that any one of us, when we get a constituent complaint about a particular topic, it's a handful of people in districts that are comprised of 15 to 20,000 people, 70-some citywide. It's become something that, again, I can't sit up here in good conscience and allow people to make political points by using people as props who do their job and do a good job at it. But from time to time, obviously, people are dissatisfied with anything at the city, and it's gotten to a point. So again, my warning to the commission is, and I'm not telling anybody to stop doing it, I'm just telling you what I'm going to do in response to it from now on. If I hear people call up people from the staff and make them try to look foolish for the sake of a political point or for a soundbite, I'm done tolerating that. I would not want to be treated that way if I was an employee of the city. I would not want to be treated that way in any job that I had. And again, it's to a point. I'm done sitting and listening to it without responding to it. So I'm not telling anyone not to say anything. I'm just telling you that there will be a response.
I can accept that, and when the response comes, I will handle it. Thank you.
All right. So moving forward, calling city staff forward and how city staff present the podium. I think it's, we are allowed to have free comments here, and so some of the comments may be hurtful, especially from the audience, that I think are definitely not positive for the future of the city of Boynton Beach. However, they're allowed to say this, they're allowed to be on the record, and it is heard. And so, you have to let me finish, and that's the one concern that I have, is that if you do have a comment, that you would raise your hand and let me know, and I will make sure that these comments stop if they come to be too personal. So I don't want more than one person talking at one time. That's what my concern is. Vice Mayor.
Just to be clear, I'm not referring to the public's ability to be critical of the government. It's more about the individuals up on the dais.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Casello.
I have no problem with any public coming up here to this podium and speaking against any official that works for the city. But it is troubling when an elected official sits on this side of the microphone and belittles one of our employees. And I totally agree with Vice Mayor there that if we have any complaints, we go to the city manager. Our job is budget and policy, not personnel. And we stop putting our own personal feelings into certain individuals, it's not a good outlook for the city.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner McCray.
Sir, let me just go ahead and say this. I have taken things to the city manager like I'm supposed to. I'm sitting up here with almost 13 years, and I'm not going to keep baffling and beating this to death and everything. When I get what citizens tell me, I state it to them, and when I state it to the city manager, I see that there's no outcome and stuff, there's no repercussion. When a person is fanfaring in front of me, trying to make like they're doing everything that is right, I'm going to speak out. And I'm sorry, if anybody that don't like it, then that'll be McCray, and whoever don't like it, we go toe to toe. And I'm just saying, and I'm through with it.
Okay. All right. Closing public audience, moving on to administrative. So speaking of ability for the residents to be a part of the government, we have 2 alternate spaces on the Arts Commission. We have 2 alternate and 2 regulars on the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals. We have 1 space available on the Employee Pension Board. We have 1 alternate available on the Library Board and 1 alternate available on the Senior Advisory Board. And next, we will move to consent agenda. Commissioner Casello, you asked to remove item E.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I removed this item just for discussion here. Excuse me. It's my understanding that the city will be putting some resources in on Carmen's Drive, and that Carmen's Drive runs off High Ridge. It dead ends into High Ridge, right across the street from the landings. My concern there, anybody who has visited that area at night, it's a very darkened area. And I had asked the city manager of the possibilities that when we are expanding that intersection for turning for trucks and such, that if a couple of street lights couldn't be installed on that intersection just to light it, just to give it a little more light.
Okay, I heard from the city manager that we're going to check into that regarding it. So I guess, would you want to put, additional amount of money, or is that a separate item?
I'd like to see the city manager come back, and if it can be done, that's fine. If it can't, it can't. But I figured while we're doing these type of repairs up there, it might be a good time to take a look at that.
All right, can I get a consensus?
This may involve the county, it may involve FP&L, so I'm going to have Jeff, we'll take a look at it, see if that's something we can do, what the cost would be, and I'd bring back an item to you to consider. Okay. And surtax money can be used. I mean, it's an appropriate expenditure. Just got to deal with a couple other agencies first.
And Commerce Road is a city-owned road?
Yes, Commerce is, High Ridge is county.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. All right, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Right.
Yes.
In regards to consent agenda, I had no idea that we were pulling things that need to be discussed, because I do need to pull an item, and that is the one in regards to SHIP, which is proposed resolution RS17-094.
Yes. Is there any other items from consent agenda that they would like to be pulled? Okay. Commissioner McCray, you may begin.
Thank you, sir. The reason I had this pull was that I've been getting a lot of calls from individuals. Here I go again, because they talk to me.
Yes.
And that is in regards to when they come down to apply for SHIP funding. Okay, they saying that, they don't know the guidelines and they're not really being, seem like they want to help them. And I had them pull this report in regards to the SHIP funding. And I'm not picking on anybody, but I'm just saying I did see one or two people on here, Afro-American, and my whole take is that I don't know the procedure that they take when they come down here, but if they could be more cognizant of individuals, when they come down here and address their issues, and if they, find out that their issues cannot be addressed when they call me, I'm going to call and find out what is the problem, like I always call and everything, and I'm just saying, I see, well, we have money, and I just hope that, like we did with community standards, that this group here is more friendly when people are coming down, because they're telling me that it's like they help their friends, and I'm going to go ahead and say this, and this is what is coming to me as an elected official. I repeat what is being told to me, whether it's right or wrong, and I'm just saying, I'm not saying nobody's helping their friends, but I'm just saying I hope it to be a more pleasing atmosphere when they come in, and that, if something's wrong, call me. I'm just saying because they call me.
All right. I'd like city staff to explain the process to get these types of funds.
Good evening. Lachey Brooks with Community Improvement. Our SHIP funds, as well as our state funds and our federal funds, are first come, first available. Also, you must qualify, and it is based on income, number of people in the household. So we do have to follow some state and federal guidelines. We have the money. Our goal is to spend all of our money. We must spend that money. If not, we have to return it to the state. So we do have people that will not qualify, of course. We do have people that come in that want rehabilitation to properties that is a rental property, and we do not assist investors. So that will be an issue. But if they are owner-occupied properties and they meet the criteria and the guidelines, we will help them. That is our goal.
And where would they go in City Hall?
They would come upstairs, second floor, West Wing, and see me,
So they
Lachey
would
Brooks.
check in at the front
Downstairs,
desk
yes.
at our West Wing, and then someone from City Hall, or
Yes.
you yourself, would go and inform them
Yes.
about the programs. And when does this year start? Is it currently in
We
process?
have ongoing funding, so we still have funding. So our funding is ongoing because we receive funding. The state fiscal year ends June 30th, but we have funding. So it's first come, first available, and we would love to spend all our money.
And this is mostly for first-time home buyers?
Our down payment assistance program is for first-time home buyers. So, and we explained that it's just someone who hasn't owned a home within the last 3 years.
That's it?
Yes.
So it's not necessarily first-time home buyer?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner
Lachey, we don't have is there an application period, or it runs year-round?
Year-round.
That's it, okay. So there is no deadline, for instance, anybody can come in anytime?
And so, well, thank you. Commissioner McCray?
Thank you. When a person does not qualify, do you all keep a record? I'm just saying you put something in their file. I'm just saying that, so if I come down and say, what went wrong at Liberty, I can see that. If I have to go through the city manager and tell her to pull it, I'm just saying,
If they actually made an application. So if they came in, they made an application. What we try to do is the application process, there's a lot of documentation that we require. And if we see up front that they don't qualify, we really try not to have them bring us all that documentation. So if we talk to them and they find out that they really don't qualify, so if they're over income, we just cannot take an application on them. But yes, if they apply with us and follow through, we will have a file on them.
Okay, and speaking of the file, this is confidential information on people's income, so that even though Commissioner McCray or anyone from the dais would want to see that information of their income, they can't.
We can give them income information, but they have information in there that is private, and we do have to, like their Social Security, birth certificate. So, but as far as income, we can provide that information.
Okay.
And you also can provide information about the denial.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. That's my concern.
We have to document why we denied them.
The whole record. I need the reason for denial.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
With that being said, motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Is there any of the other items? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Moving on to bids and purchases over $100,000. Approve utilizing the City of Miami's contract to furnish and install emergency equipment for law enforcement vehicles on an as-needed basis from Dana Safety Supply, Inc. of Doral, Florida, for an estimated annual amount of $225,000. The City of Miami's procurement process satisfies the city's competitive bid requirements. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, may I have all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Approve utilizing the City of Delray's agreement based on ITB number 2017-047 for the procurement of bulk gasoline and diesel fuel with Macmillan Oil Company, LLC of Hialeah, Florida, for the city's fleet with an estimated annual expenditure of $1.5 million. The City of Delray's procurement process satisfies the City of Boynton Beach's competitive bid requirements. May I have a motion to approve?
Move with discussion.
All right. Yes.
I'd just like staff to just address this, especially with the 1.5 price tag. I want to know what our progress is on trying to make our city more green-friendly and potentially moving in the direction of looking at electric or hybrid vehicles.
Jeff Liverga, Director of Public Works and Engineering. Each year, when we prepare our city's fleet plan, we do multiple things. First, we identify the vehicles that the department needs. Once we've identified the vehicle type, we then look for the most fuel-efficient vehicle, traditionally starting with an internal combustion engine first, because when you're dealing with pickup trucks and some of the fleet that we provide, electric vehicles don't yet provide for that. We've looked at alternative fuels such as natural gas, liquid propane, compressed natural gas, to see if those are available. And I think that you'll recall this year we found for the first time that we were able to purchase an electric vehicle. We purchased a Nissan Leaf. We have to buy the vehicles that make the most sense from an upfront purchase perspective to an annualized maintenance cost for how long the vehicle will be with us compared to how many miles that the operator drives the vehicle so that we can get that payback over the life of the vehicle. I guess the best way to really emphasize this to you is, trust me, we go through this in intricate detail. It's asked of every department when we look at which vehicles we're going to be acquiring, because we'd like to see the number go down on the diesel and the gasoline as well.
Well, I guess, Jeff, that part of the issue is that even though a internal combustion may be the most cost effective, it does burn gasoline compared to the electric vehicle. And so I would like to see the breakdown, whether we're saving pennies or dollars or thousands of dollars from the difference of the electric vehicles versus the internal combustion, and I guess we will get that for next year's.
Yeah, you'll get that, and it's a value decision that we make, and only the commission can make that decision. If we're looking at a staff vehicle that's $14,000 with an internal combustion engine versus an electric vehicle that's $21,000, and an annualized expense is more costly for an electric vehicle, the commission would have to make that policy decision that it's worth the additional expenditure for the benefits. And we all know that the benefits, but we're always looking for that best price for that vehicle.
Because we do have to pay for our own electric chargers?
Yes.
And otherwise the public gets to use them for free?
We have electric chargers around City Hall.
Yeah.
I know somebody very close to me that uses one every day.
All right.
His name is Jeff Livergood.
I do.
Yes.
So,
all right.
I'm a good example. I drive a hybrid electric vehicle that's plug-in, so trust me, I look for those.
Right.
I didn't find it to be a reasonable purchase until I sat down and did my typical nerd engineering calculations over the life of the vehicle, and it proved worthwhile.
Okay. Commissioner McCray.
Thank you. Mr. Howard, I'm glad to see you standing. Can you tell me how much money did we spend for the fiscal year that we just finished?
Sure. Tim Howard, Assistant City Manager. For the 16-17 year, we spent approximately $727,000.
Spent $727,000, and I'm trying to find out why we're trying to almost like double this. Is that reason?
The year before was $1 million, so it fluctuates based on what's going on in the price of the fuel itself. So we're just getting an authorization to go up to $1.5 million. So we didn't want to get an authorization for $700,000. The price the volume goes up, and we have to come back mid-year and go, it's not $700,000, now it's $1 million. So we just wanted to give ourselves, we're only going to order it as we use it. So we just get the authorization up to $1.5 million.
Yeah, I could have kind of went along with 1,250. I'm just saying, but this is the way that they want to put it out there, just have it laying out there not to be used. I'm just saying, we need to be frugal about the citizens' dollars. And I'm going to say this, and I see a lot of city vehicles riding around. I don't know if everybody riding is working and stuff, but I see a lot of little cars. I'm just saying, like they be on happy mediums and they're not working. I'm going to go ahead and say it, since I'm getting in trouble tonight, I'm going to go ahead and kill myself.
Mr. Howard, the monies that we do not use, substantial less than that $1.5 million that we put aside for that, where does that money go at the end of the year? Back into the general fund?
It remains in the fleet fund, the vehicle maintenance fund, which is an internal service fund that pays for the mechanics and the garage and the equipment for where we purchase vehicles out of.
Okay, so it's not just earmarked for fuel. It can be used for anything with the maintenance division.
Correct. Remember, this is just the approval of purchasing of the gas. We would only issue the purchase order for the amount of the gas that we buy.
Open PO, so it's a purchase order that will encumber $1.5 million for fuel. And as we move through the year each month and we spend and we fill the tanks, come year end, if there's a balance on it,
it'll release itself back into the fund. It
releases and goes back into the fleet fund, but it's an encumbrance for the year, so it allows us to repeatedly purchase. You'll see a lot of those. You saw a lot of those on your consent agenda tonight because we're starting the new fiscal year.
Thank you.
What we don't use goes right back in there.
Commissioner McCray.
Thank you. I know we're jumping on the back of the city of Delray, but I'm just saying, are we looking around to see if anybody else is having gasoline being delivered at a more economical price?
Yes. We in the previous years, we piggybacked the state of Florida contract. The City of Delray just went out this past year for their contract, and the price is less. We also checked a cooperative city contract that's issued out of Fort Lauderdale, and the Delray Beach was lower than that, so that's why we were recommending the Delray Beach.
And to approve.
We already had a motion. Do you want to second it?
Second it.
All right. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Next, approve utilizing the Town of Palm Beach for tree trimming and pruning with Zimmerman Tree Service of Lake Worth, Florida, for a blanket purchase order with an estimated annual expenditure of $190,000. The Town of Palm Beach procurement process satisfies the city's competitive bid requirements.
I'm about to offer a motion for discussion.
All right. You don't need to offer a motion for discussion, though.
The reason I want to discuss this is that I seen Zimmerman down at JC Park and they was trimming trees, and I'm just saying, how much money did we spend last year in regards to tree trimming here in the city of Boynton?
Jeff Livergood, Director of Public Works again. With respect to Zimmerman, we have an existing purchase order not to exceed $25,000 right now, which is why you have this item before you, so that we can increase that dollar amount. Only the commission can award that. A lot of this will be for hurricane removal. So please, as you're driving around and you see things look up, we appreciate that. You're starting to see a lot of the hangers that are starting to die back over a period of time and turning brown. So those are the types of things that we'll be doing. And Commissioner, in answer to your question, generally, we're going to prune anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 worth of trees in our parks primarily, on our city or municipal grounds. But we think
the question I was going to ask. Thank you, sir.
We think the number's going to be a lot higher this year.
All right.
Jeff, I have a question of you. The golf course, it had a lot of tree damage, obviously. The crew out there did a great job of getting as much as they could, but there's some huge stumps out there. What's your plan to get them removed?
It's a possibility that we can use Zimmerman. We talked about that today. Stumps are very difficult to remove because they're very large, and right now, stumps related to hurricane debris are not being accepted at the transfer facilities, at the dump sites. That's typically one of the last things that's collected, but this will help to allow us to have a contractor with the capability to pick them up and collect them. We're going to work, Ron and I actually talked a little bit about it yesterday, that we have those needs there and throughout the city.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Jeff, I just want to know, did we use our traditional bidding or procurement service to get Zimmerman, or what was the protocol? Did we follow protocol for this?
Yes, we did.
We
Through a
went.
piggyback.
Right. This, the item in front of you is to piggyback the town of Palm Beach, because they actually went out and advertised and awarded a bid based on hourly rate for tree trimming services for this type of tree trimming services. So it's on an as-needed basis also.
Commissioner McCray.
When the town of Palm Beach went out, Tim, when did they go out?
I don't know. I have to look and see. The end of 2015, and they're in their one of their one-year renewal periods.
End of 2015, okay, and then we got 16, and I'm
Yep.
I kind of, I'm going to go ahead and vote for it, but I'm just saying, although we piggyback on something that, we might can get a better price. Now, I don't know.
One of the reasons we did it was because this is partially result from the hurricane and the issues that we have in the trees we want to address. And we had to weigh the value of the time that it was going to take to go out and process our own bid and advertise and open and evaluate. And this one was in place, and so we wanted to get it in place for this fiscal year so we could get it started and get the process done. We're also finding that since the hurricane, the responsiveness and the ability for the availability of vendors to do this type of work is very limited. So we were lucky to find this one that was already in place that we could use.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to take a point of privilege after we vote on this, just to talk about this very issue here with the trees and the issues that we've had after Irma, if you don't mind, just a minute to mention something.
Absolutely, and I spoke with Tim regarding this and why we didn't ask for someone locally, and they stated that they were unable to find local bidders for this type of work because of the Hurricane Irma, that we couldn't find this. And part of I was at Mac Bernard's mayors and managers meeting, and we had FEMA there, and one of the things that FEMA does cover is called the hangers and leaners. And what these are tree limbs that have not broken off but are about to broken off. That if they look dangerous, please let who do they let know? Public Works about these trees, because we do not want these trees falling on any cars or especially any people. So that is kind of why we have this hourly rate, is kind of what we're going with for these tree trimming. And so may I have a motion to approve?
Did she finish?
No, she asked for afterwards.
I did the motion for discussion.
So
And I second it.
I need a motion for approval.
Go ahead and let Casella do it then. You did it.
Made the motion.
Oh, you did?
And I
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
There
she
we go.
seconded.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your motion, Commissioner Casello. All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Last, approve the ranking of
Sir.
go ahead.
I really just want to take a moment to bring to the attention of the commission, and I believe this is not something that you all are not aware of, but the fact that there was so many issues with protocol not being followed the way it should have during this process, and the fact that the entire state was hit by this hurricane. And you look at other cities and other municipalities that were doing things like doubling the price that they were paying in order to get vendors to come out to their cities first. And if this commission would be in agreement, and if no one is opposed to it, I believe it would be in our favor as a municipality to perhaps send a resolution or create a draft resolution that would encourage Tallahassee or the legislature to basically understand that this is a form of price gouging that occurred during this storm, and it should not happen, where you have municipalities that were paying double or triple their rates in order to get faster service ahead of others. So just like stores are not supposed to be raising their prices during a storm or an emergency, this should not have happened, and I it's frankly appalling that it did. So again, if the members of this commission are in agreement, I believe that we should draft something or stand in solidarity with agreeing that there should be legislation that's crafted to prevent a situation like this from occurring in the future. That's what I wanted to just add to this comment.
I think we actually have to go to Washington, D.C., because it's FEMA that approved this sort of thing, and so it will...
No, sir. No, that had nothing to do with FEMA. It was simply just FEMA will reimburse what they reimburse. I'm saying that you had municipalities and vendors that were initially contracted to do a work with us, and then they went and left that contract to go to another city or another municipality that would be offering twice or triple the price that we were. And this is also what caused the delay in the time frames that it took to collect bulk trash and collect things outside of people's homes, vegetation. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And but the concern is that it is a free market and that not everyone had the pre-hurricane contract. So I am with you to see if it is price gouging for this, but I do think that it is the free market that was going on. Yes, Commissioner McCray?
Thank you. And if it's price gouging, I'm just saying, they told us for the state of Florida, they said anything. So this would be something that we could turn over to them if we really think it's something that we need to have looked into.
Yes. Lori?
When we went to the county meeting with Commissioner Bernard, I know Todd Von Laren gave a little update on the legislative priorities of the county, and they did a summary, which we're going to be bringing you our summary at the next meeting, after action report of the hurricane. And I know there will be discussions up at the Florida legislature on handling, because many cities had contracts in place, as did we, and this is a perfect time to show it was really good to have our own crews in-house, thank goodness, because we had them to help us. But if we relied on our contract, we did not receive everything we were supposed to get in our contract, so it was failure to fulfill contracts by many vendors, and many cities were left in lurches with nothing. So part of I think the discussion that will elevate also to FEMA is to how do we react in a timely manner as a city because of our procurement processes. We need them to come up and help us devise an emergency procurement procedure, because otherwise it could be 6 months to try to go out and find another vendor to come in and help you when you're in a crisis situation trying to get your streets clean. So we're going to be looking at it both state and federal.
I understand, and I remember when this contract came up, and I asked, doesn't it seem weird that the company out of Tennessee is going to be able to handle all of Florida? And that's, they did provide the lowest, but they were not able to deliver on that contract. And so are we going after the contractor that we went with for for a breach of that contract?
Yeah, in our case, it depends on the level of breach. That I don't know yet. I need to talk to Jeff. There are cities that, the only recourse you have is to go after failure to perform, and we will if that's our situation.
I think that's a road that we need to think very carefully about. The contractors that we deal with in debris management are national companies. None of them ever contemplate a major storm in Texas, where they have contracts, and then contemplate a storm going up the spine of the peninsula, affecting many, many other clients that they have. It put an incredible demand upon the load. It's very similar to what you see after power outages on storms. FPL talks about power companies coming from New Jersey and from out of state. That's what happens. And we find that the best way to deal with that in this type of a crisis, when there was so much demand, is to work cooperatively with the contractors to recognize their constraints, use their resources wisely so that it's beneficial to them, and then combine them with our own staff, and that worked well.
Commissioner McCray.
We were lucky.
Thank you. In regards to the rink, and I'm just saying, can somebody tell me the negotiation? Might be one of the reasons that Commissioner Ramos is going the way she's going to negotiate with the three highest rankings. I'm just saying, and Mill Green was the highest. I'm just saying, according to what I have here, average points 93. Why did we do that?
I don't think we're on that item yet, Commissioner.
Oh, we're not there?
No.
Oh.
I think Commissioner Romulus was just making a point concerning the after-storm issues, not necessarily the next agenda item.
This isn't okay. I'll get the D. No problem.
Yeah.
All right.
You can answer it then.
Is there any discussion from the board? Seeing none, moving on to item D. Approve the ranking of the proposers as determined by the evaluation committees and authorize staff to conduct negotiations with the three highest ranked firms, the Melgren Planning Group, Johnny Schmidt and Associates doing business as Schmidt Nichols, and Gentle Glass Holloway O'Mahony and Associates to establish contracts in accordance with requests for qualifications for general planning services and as per Florida Statute 287.055, Consultants Competitive Negotiations Act, and completion of negotiation contracts will be brought back to the commission for approval.
Now I could answer my question.
I'd actually like staff to go ahead and discuss this first.
So what you have in front of you is the city issued an RFQ for general planning consultants. They were opened.
Before you go on, can you just educate me? General planning services.
It's engineering. I'll let Andrew. I know it by title, but I'm just
the assistant city manager.
Andrew Mack, Director of Development. So what we decided to do was put out an RFQ to be an augment to city staff. So whenever we have special projects or if we have a specific task that needs a specific skill set, we have the ability on an as-needed basis to hire rotating firms to use throughout the next 3 years.
So this is something new.
Yes, this is something new that we're putting together to help with, when we have items that come before the commission, a special topic that if we're busy with staff and we can't get to it, you have an option to either ask for a task order, which we could bring back to you, that you could then decide if there's something you wanted to expedite now, we could use that and assign it to them, or we could, at that point, wait.
What's the cost associated to something like this, Andrew?
This is all on an as-needed basis. So right now we're just doing it's similar to how we handled the engineering contracts with utilities. So we have a negotiated price set with them on an hourly basis, and then we bring back task orders with the not-to-exceed budget.
So what's the negotiated price with this?
It's not that we're not at that point yet. This is just an award, and then we'll bring back task contracts.
Well, how can they be ranked number one? We don't even know what they're charging us.
That's the way CCNA works.
That's how it works.
Yeah, you can't ask for price. You award based on qualifications.
All right, so now they got the top spot, they got the qualification, and we're going to go with them. They're kind of like in the best bargaining position as far as whatever.
Yeah, we have
wage.
history of, what the typical price would be for a consultant, what we normally would charge based on the standards out there. So
and we're ranking more, we will rank more than one and have more than one available.
Correct.
So if we are not successful in negotiations with number one, we move and make the call to move to number two. So they're motivated to work with us.
Okay, so we're not tied, we're not locked in with number one.
And we continue to rotate each firm. As the project comes up, you move to the next guy, move to the next guy, and it gives everybody an opportunity for work.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner McCray.
Thank you. You answered my question. Although they're the highest, you just said that they are on rotating basis. This is what I need to hear. Thank you, Mr. Mack. Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Now we're on to public hearing. Shauna?
We are on
9A.
item 9A, approve Courtyard Gardens major site plan modification MSPM 17-007 for a one-story 51,258 square foot inpatient medical facility with memory care and related site improvements at 3005 South Congress Avenue in the C3 Community Commercial Zoning District. The applicant is Joni Brinkman. Do I need to swear you in? You swear or affirm that your testimony will be true? Yes.
Want to swear anybody else in if they want to testify?
Anybody else intend to speak?
I do have other consultants here in case you have questions.
So, yeah.
All right, anyone else who intends to speak on this item, please stand, raise your hand. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony will be true? Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening. For the record, Joni Brinkman with Urban Design Kilday Studios on behalf of the applicant, Courtyard Gardens of Boynton Beach, LLC. I do have with me tonight the representatives from the applicants, the LLC, the Gazzo family. It's Gregory Skip Gazzo, Greg Gazzo, Johnny Gazzo, Dr. Peck as well as here in case there's any medical questions regarding the operations. We also have our project architect, Jim Williams from AW Associates, Leo Urban, our landscape architect from Urban Associates, and Ryan Wheeler, our engineer from Caulfield and Wheeler. So just to give you an overview of the project, this project is located at the northeast corner of North Charter Drive and Congress Avenue. It's a vacant parcel of land right now. It's just south of the Manor Care Assisted Living Skilled Nursing Facility. As mentioned, this is a major site plan amendment. The site's currently vacant. We're proposing a 51,250 square foot inpatient medical facility. The treatment that will be provided at the facility is Alzheimer's and dementia care for memory care issues. There'll be transitional and then more intense treatment there as patients progress. 150 beds, 80 units, and we also have outdoor areas and courtyards and verandas. This is a close-up view of the site. You see Manor Care in the north, the vacant site, which has quite a bit. What we tried to do with the site plan was utilize the prior location of the building that was demolished after the hurricanes in 2009. This site was originally approved in 1988 as part of the Manor Care facility. It already had an assisted living facility on the property with about 120 beds. In 2009, it was purchased by the Sloman Sandlore Properties. Sandy Sloman came before you and was approved for a autism center. That approval lapsed, and then most recently there was a request to propose a in-house patient detox facility, which was denied, so I did not include that actually in the history. Just briefly, in regards to how the site plan set up, again, both open space areas existed to the east and west side of the facility. We're maintaining those, which provide oversized setbacks from both the residential multifamily to the west, as well as from the Congress Avenue corridor. Access is via the access from Congress Avenue and egress easement that's shared with Manor Care. There's some shared parking there to the north. You'll see that is outside our boundary, but we do have a cross-parking access agreement with them. We're maintaining the two driveway entrances off of Charter as well. It's envisioned that the front parking area will be used for visitors, and the employees will park in the rear of the facility. And you see the interior courtyard that's for the memory care. Obviously, this type of facility has a high security operational standards they need to adhere to, which I'll get to a little bit later in the presentation. The property requires 60 parking spaces. We're providing 73. And again, the extra parking is hopefully during holidays and such, there will be visitors to the site. We're going to make sure we have enough parking for that. And then it accounts for the cross parking between us and Manor Care to the north. One thing we did want to bring up, this applicant is committing not only to whatever the governor requires, which I think is still kind of up in the air during the recent tragedy down in Broward County during the hurricane. We will be providing a generator, and the intent at this point in time is to design it to function, to maintain the entire operations of the facility, not just certain areas.
The intent, does that mean you're going to do it, or just that's your intention?
It is the intention. It's in design right now. The applicant is committing to move forward with that design, and all intentions are right now. We will be functioning completely on the generator with AC and all operations being provided during that any power outage. Now, I know that the legislature is still working on additional rules that will also have to be adhered to. So this just kind of shows the location of the generator, and the reason I wanted to bring it up was since we are in design right now, and with the intent of designing to function the whole facility, we may have to tweak this later. So we might have to make the generator a little bit bigger, but we can do that administratively later through your zoning department. The architectural components in the design provided for a veranda up front. It's a one-story component that kind of fits in with the area. We have Hunters Run to the west, residential communities. It is, again, though, set back considerably from the road, so there will not be an overwhelming presence on Congress Avenue, and it's also set back considerably from the residential to the west. In that case, there is also a existing wall that was required when the previous facility was built. That'll be maintained, and there'll be landscape on both sides of the wall and considerable landscape in the front of the property, as well as the fact that we are providing 50% of the land area in green space. This is just some more elevations. They were described in pretty good detail in your staff report. Really, we don't have that much of a presentation. That's the end of the formal presentation, but I think that the point we wanted to get across was that this site's been vacant for quite some time. And the fact is it did support assisted living facility in the past. We have provided it above and beyond in security. This is I wouldn't call it a lockdown facility, but you would not be able to get in or out of the facility without being monitored by cameras and staff. The safety of our residents is of the utmost concern. These are memory care patients. We have worked with staff, and they're in agreement that with what we're providing in regards to security is adequate. We would, at that point, I see a question. We would ask for your support for the site plan approval. And we're available, our entire team, for questions. And I would also reserve the right that if there is public comment, that we might be able to respond to that afterwards.
All right, well, I'll let the board go first. Commissioner McCray was first, and then Commissioner Casella.
Thank you. My concern is high security, and I think you touched on it by saying, that they be monitored in and out when you start dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia patients. I'm just saying we have to be cognizant, that they wander away, sometime, they just walk out with somebody else. But anyway, I think that you all got it down pat. That was the main thing I was, concerned about. Is there, and the fence part, what kind of fence is it?
Okay, we are not providing a fence around the entire facility. We discussed that with staff, and due to the cameras that were placed in the facility, the operational procedures in regards to admittance and exit capability from the facility, we're not enclosing the entire facility, but there is an existing, I believe it's a 6-foot wall that runs along the west property line. You see where the houses are to the west, and we're separated by a street. There's a wall that is in place. It will remain, and there was landscape that will be provided on both sides, so that it will be no different than the prior assisted living facility that was there.
Okay, let me ask another question. There's no water, like a retention pond, anything on this facility?
There's no water, it's dry retention.
Dry retention, okay. That's what I need to hear.
Just a couple of, you did say it was going to be locked down, correct?
Well, the security measures would not allow anyone to enter without being vented by staff, and it will also not allow any of the patients to exit. We'll have cameras in all hallways and common areas.
Just make sure it's a locked facility. My other question is this the first time you've presented for one of your clients here in Boynton Beach?
It's been a long time. The last time I think I worked in Boynton Beach was when I worked in Quantum Park.
Okay. My second question is that obviously you notified the surrounding where you had us notified. I forget what that distance is, but the the surrounding neighborhoods?
Yes, the mailers went out.
Okay.
And in addition to that, when we started working with the Gazzo family early on, we understand and we expressed upon them that it is always in the best interest of every project to reach out to the neighbors. They did that very early on, probably back in March with Hunter's Run. Mr. Gazzo went out there and met with that board members out there personally. I wasn't involved, but we did have outreach to Hunter's Run as well.
Okay. And just for my comfort level, that when you have a project of this scope, that you give us the opportunity you reach out to us. We usually have like a one-on-one meeting. We can either, accept it or not accept it, and it gives us a little more intimate feeling for the project itself versus you getting up there and putting up a couple of slides. This is the first I've seen of it, obviously. So, just in the future, just a suggestion.
Well taken.
And the other thing that I'd be really concerned about in light of what the tragedy that happened on Broward is that generator, whatever size it might need to be, that it can operate at least all of the AC that it needs to operate. That'd be
the operator has
the intent.
committed to that.
That's something that needs to happen.
Yes, he has committed to that.
Okay, thank you.
In addition to having a generator or whatnot on the premises, what consideration has your applicant given to making sure that the building is LEED certified, potentially putting solar panels or other energy generating forms on the building itself?
I would probably request that our project architect, Jim Williams, come up and speak to that. We are not, at this point in time, proposing to be LEED certified, but I think he has been trying to take some other options that would at least buy roof tiles and that kind of things.
Any sort of
and
green
LED.
standards that the project is going with.
Exactly, LED lighting, that kind of thing. So I'll let Jim speak to that.
Thank you, Jody. Jim Williams, AW Architect, 7700 Congress, Boca Raton, Florida. Rudolfo, my partner, and I are both LEED certified professionals. We've done many LEED projects. On a project like this, what we try to do is incorporate some of those the thoughts and particulars that would go into a LEED project. We've used a very light colored roof, for example. It's a very light gray. There are some black accents, but they're in about 10% of the roof area. We've used a white membrane roof in the flat roofed areas, which you can see the center portion there facing the courtyard. The wall area to window area was very carefully studied, the low-E glass. So we've done all the things you would think about in a LEED building, but we aren't prepared to go through the certification process. It's a very expensive process. It takes a year after you're up and running, but we are aware of the procedures and the thought that goes into it. The shading, provided by Leo in the landscape is also a very important factor. So that's where we are on the project.
Okay, being that this will be a memory care facility, do you have access in terms of natural light or to the rooms?
Yes,
to every
we do.
part of the facility?
Most of the rooms are on the perimeter that you see, but the ones facing the courtyard have a very nice landscaped garden as well. Leo is going to go in. Well, I don't know if he needs to go into it, but he's prepared a serenity type garden in the courtyard. The closest any window is to a wall is 20 feet, and it's only in those two slots that you see in the courtyard there. So plenty of green space, plenty of natural light. I guess I didn't mention the LED lighting. The entire facility is lit with LED lighting, but it's a warm range of the LED lights. It's not the typical cool light that you see on some street lights.
Thank you for noting that.
Mm-hmm.
On a different note, I just want to ask regarding drew a blank. Okay, I'll come back.
Okay, I'll be here.
I'd like to open it up to public comment before I have my questions. So if anybody has any questions or concerns regarding this project, please speak now. Please form a line to the left so we know who would like to discuss.
Hi, Susan Oyer, 140 Southeast 27th Way. I'd like to start with saying I think they've done a great job with removing and shifting the existing trees. My issues are environmental. Overall, I do like the project very much. I think they've done a great job. My issues are all on the environmental bent. Only 23% of the existing trees are shade, 77% are palms. I have not looked at the couple thousand bushes, trees they're looking to add. I do know when this came up in front of P&D, I questioned the amount of palm trees because I thought it was an excessively large amount of palms, and I'll repeat myself again. Palm trees are like supermodels. They're really pretty, but they serve no purpose. There's no shade. Everybody laughs every time. That's why I say
Susan, that's offensive.
Oh, well, they're very pretty, but they serve no purpose. They don't provide shade. They're inefficient converters of CO2 to oxygen.
The supermodels, not the palm trees.
The palm trees.
The supermodels.
Oh. Well, having had a model in the family, we don't want to go there. Don't get me started on models and families. My issue is the lack of shade trees, and when I brought this up, I was basically rebuffed. So I think knowing that the mayor is quite the eco-warrior, as are you, Commissioner Romulus, and thank you for your prior statements, I would hope Vice Mayor Katz, since this is in your district, you would want to see as many shade trees as possible to help combat all the industrial in the area. My next thing also is solar. There is room for solar. We've discussed this, and we need to be moving forward. We need to be the city that's progressive, and there is room for solar on the rooftop. So I think maybe we should be doing something, even if it only offsets the lighting at the front doors over time. We need to be showing that we're moving forward on this. There is no electric car charger spaces. This is going to be an issue at some point. So I guess my question, once again, since I've asked this before, is, why are there no electric car charger spaces? I'm not asking for 20, I'm asking for 1, because I assume at least at some point, some family member is going to show up that has one. And those are my questions, so thank you.
Would you please respond? Yeah.
Leo, our landscape architect, will first respond to the palm tree issue.
Thank you.
I think what you have to look at when you're looking at the plans is that we're keeping all the trees that are out there now, and there are a lot of shade trees. If you look at the plant list, we put a lot of palms in around the building because of hurricane damage. We've tried to keep palms right tree, right place. So we're putting them close to the building, and that's the space we really had to plan in. All the rest of the site is basically covered with trees. So you have to add the trees in the plant list plus the trees that are existing to come up with the total count of trees.
Right, and you did not include the percent of shade trees to palm trees, which I noticed other developers have been doing lately. And I know, looking at the existing trees, there were only 23 shade trees and 100 out of 101 total trees. So that's a 23% shade tree of the existing ones that you are relocating, and then you are doing a fabulous job of relocating. My issue is with all the palms you're adding in.
Yeah, we moved all the native sable palms to on site, and we actually located a huge oak tree on site because we didn't want to destroy it. And then we added palms only around the perimeter close to the building, and we went to native buttonwoods, green buttonwoods, and silver buttonwoods in areas where we just had a little bit of room to plant them because we didn't have a lot of room. There are some huge oak trees out there along the south and along the east side and west side of the building property. So we don't normally put shade trees very close to the building because of the hurricane will push them onto the building and destroy the building. We always put palm trees right next to the building. We have a very short, limited area, foundation planning in which we have surrounded the building with the required number because there's a count requirement. So we met all the requirements of the city as far as number and count, as far as number of trees and so forth.
Right, and I
Ms. Boyer,
I'm sorry.
That's that was it's not a discussion.
No problem. Thank you.
So thank you for your explanation.
Okay, I'll address the other issues. Photovoltaics we've used on a few of our projects, very few. They're hard to make cost effective. The cases where we have used them have been government buildings who received huge grants from the Department of Energy, which we're not capable of obtaining at this point. The payback on a straight financed photovoltaic system is many years more than any investor would really invest in right now. Personally, and each of us may personally say that's something we want to do in our homes, but in a commercial business, it's hard to make it pay right now. The rooftops that would be available would be the flat roofed areas. We have high efficiency air conditioning equipment. It's on a lot of the square footage of those areas. We've got a hood exhaust for the kitchen, which we know has to be separated by 10 feet from everything nearby it. And the equipment itself has spacing. When we lay out the area we have available on those roofs, it's going to be pretty packed with the equipment for cooling the building. So.
The electric car chargers.
Yes. Is there any discussion on that?
I was going to bring that up, Mr. Mayor.
Is it required by their city code or ordinance?
We did not use the component of energy efficiency
parking.
and the parking. We did not use that component. We were almost over-parked previously. We were asked at Planning and Zoning, why do we have so many parking spaces? And the answer was there's some cross-access parking agreements. The place next door is pretty busy, and at the holiday times, we wanted to be sure we had enough parking, but we didn't really need to utilize any of those parking sources for more efficiency.
So the answer is no.
No, there's no code requirement for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me just throw my 2 cents in here for conditions of approval. For me to, I think this is a great project, but for me to have my approval here, one of my conditions would be to have a couple of electric car chargers in there. Also, how many handicap spots do you have?
It's the required amount for this size of a parking lot. I believe it's 4 total. And they're located
Is that
near,
enough?
near the entrance.
Obviously, there's going to be patients being dropped off, picked up over the holidays. That's enough?
Yes. And there's a porte cochere for drop-off. There's a covered drop-off area at the front entrance of the building.
Okay. So for me to approve this, to have my yes vote, I would want car chargers, electric car chargers. And the shade trees, you explained it pretty well why we don't have more shade trees. I'd like to see that up, but I understand why not. And the other thing, I don't see it in writing, but I want to see it in writing on this generator. And I don't want to hear intent. Hell is paved with
the generator.
intent.
We have been instructed to design the generators to handle the full load of the building. It's not designed yet, I think, is why Joni said the intent. We're still designing the permit drawings have not really been completed.
My other question, is this a profit or non-profit organization that's going to be running this?
It's a for-profit organization.
So you will be paying taxes?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And we'll also be supplying about 100 full-time jobs.
Mr. Gasso, just want to make sure we pointed out that we're also going to be creating approximately 100 jobs.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner McCray.
I want to thank you for your project. I want to first say thank you for bringing up the generator. And, while we hopping on your project about generators, we need to be looking at other facilities here in the city and check on those that don't have generators. I'm just saying that's something that we need to be cognizant of. If we're going to do it for one, we need to just start looking around and making sure that all facilities have generators now so that we don't do like Broward County. That's my concern.
I'm going to go now. One is the art tax. I believe you have to spend the 1%. Is that correct?
For art in public places? Yes, I think the staff report indicated, I believe it was a $5.5 million estimate, and there was $38,000. Leo, it's going to be working with that to put some art on the property.
And so I was reading that it had to be in the public's view. Kind of what I wanted to know is that, I'm okay with some of that art not being in that public's view if it's in the courtyard, because kind of with the memory care that these people are not leaving the building at all or on an extremely limited basis. Is that correct?
Correct.
So we do have our barrier-free park across the street within walking distance. Does the management expect to walk to that with any of their patients? Or
Is whether or not we feel we'll ever take any of the patients off-site,
to the
like a pedestrian walk off-site.
I don't think that's, we were talking
So basically, once these people are in your facility, they're not leaving? Oh, okay.
They're dementia and Alzheimer's.
So this is kind of like a doctor has to prescribe, I guess, prescribe or recommend to be in this sort of location or by court order?
I think, no, not by court order, but I think Dr. Peck could speak better. He's your partner on.
Yeah, I just want to know that the patients who come here to Boynton Beach, that are receiving the care that they need, and that if they're not able to go outside of the facility, that there is ample recreation within the facility, and I guess the square footage of that courtyard.
Yes, I'll let Dr. Peck speak to the activities within there, but we are also proposing to provide like a salon, a library, those type of facilities within the building itself as well.
Mayor and Commissioners, I own a facility very similar called Courtyard Gardens of Jupiter. And the reason we named it Courtyard Gardens is because we have beautiful gardens for these people to be able to enjoy without going outside. They can't get out of the building. There's codes on all the doors, and the security has to be there. So, that is why we designed the courtyards that we have. And these people can go out in the courtyard, they can go with their family, but they're not going outside the building.
Okay, so a family member can't take them off?
Well, no, a family member could take them out, but not that would be to take them home. In other words, like if it's a holiday, I didn't want to take them home. Not all of these people are in a situation where they cannot socialize, let's say. You have very early dementia that if you talk to these people, you wouldn't even know they had dementia. And and that's one of the things that we do in Jupiter. When we first started, we built the building back in, it's now 18 years. And when we built it, it was strictly assisted living. And there was no place for dementia. And this was true all over Florida. The only place that patients with dementia would go would be to skilled nursing facilities without any care. So when I saw this, and when a patient that was, these people were living there, they couldn't go anywhere else. And so what do? They develop dementia, they have to go home. Well, that's terrible. They're going to go home. Who's going to take care of them? So I decided that I would take 20 beds. We were able to segregate them where they had their own dining, their own activities, their own garden that they could walk into. And that 20 beds has today become 60. And this was an innovation in the field of dementia care. And these people, there's all kinds of activities that you can give them, and that's what we do. And the other thing that we do is we try to divide the different levels of dementia. And we do that in two groups. We have one called transitional, which are the real early ones. And then we have the late ones and the Alzheimer's, which are real severe. And both of them are segregated from each other. And both of them have their own activities, their own dining, so that there's no problem with someone with real severe dementia mixing with an early dementia. But I want to say one other thing. As far as air conditioning, before the hurricane, before the tragedy that occurred, I told my partner, Mr. Gazzo, I says, one of the things that we will have, I don't know where this intent came up. There's no intent. We will have a generator of sufficient size to take care of everything in that building. Okay? Now, only today, I was working on this. I know that we will need somewhere between 250 kW and 300 in order to take care of everything, so that if the power goes off, this is automatic. Immediately, the generator goes on, and it will take care of all the air conditioning, take care of the kitchen, take care of the everything in the kitchen. You know, you got your refrigerator, your freezers, and whatnot, and then all of your emergency. Is there any other questions I can answer?
What is the approximate size of the rooms?
You know, now you got me there.
Yeah, that was my last one. And the size
let me say that the rooms are of sufficient size. They're not small rooms.
But they each have their own bathroom.
Each room has its own bathroom. The overall size with the bathroom and the entry into the room is 30 by 13.
Okay, so a little bit under 300, over 300 square feet.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that you have to understand is that you don't want a too large a space.
I understand that.
They get lost in it.
And yeah, I have a cat too. The courtyard. What is the size of the courtyard?
165, I believe, by.
Okay.
165 width by 60.
Okay, so that's pretty deep. All right. Yeah, and I would like to just echo what Commissioner Casello said regarding the car chargers. I know that you guys have the LEED certification knowledge. However, if you're not applying for any green code or green certification, I'd like to see that so that people know that it is a green building.
Well, you know, let me add something there, is that the generator will be diesel. And the diesel that we're going to be using is biodiesel. And you all know how green biodiesel is.
I understand, but, you don't use the biodiesel every day.
No, well.
There's been an agreement back here to add 2 car chargers into the parking lot. Okay?
Thank you.
So you do, I'm sorry.
Commissioner McRae was next.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you. Doc, don't go anywhere. Doc, hello? Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to find out that you had a facility in Jupiter and you went from a 20-bed to a 60-bed. How is the security up there? Any problems?
We have never had one problem.
That's all I need to hear. Thank you.
Commissioner Casello?
Sir, are you going to have are you going to be dispersing drugs here? Are you going to have like a pharmacy type thing? Are these patients going to need some medications? How's that going to be distributed?
We will have, there will be one RN, and that will take care of that. We will have a clinic area where these patients can get their medication, and that's usually done every morning. And the doctors prescribe, and then the nurses give the medications.
And
you have one RN?
Yeah, one RN, and then the others are all nurses' aides. This is not a skilled facility. It's licensed as assisted living.
Okay, and is there any regulations by the state or federal government for this?
That's it. You need one RN.
Is all the requirements, is it a state or federal guideline?
No, that's true all over the country.
So it's federal, okay.
Yeah, because we have facilities in Jersey, and it works exactly the same.
So you're going to have a secure clinic, which the meds will be dispensed every morning by this RN?
Exactly.
Okay.
And all narcotics, you were talking before about opioids, they're all secure.
Okay.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, just in speaking to the surrounding communities, traffic was one of their concerns. Could you just elaborate? I know you talked about the potential for guest parking versus staff parking in the front and the rear of the facility, but just as far as the potential traffic implications in the area, is there anyone who can speak to that?
As we indicated, we're anticipating the staff's going to park in the rear, and they'll be on a shift basis. We did prepare traffic analysis, submitted to Palm Beach County Traffic Engineering, and we meet the traffic performance standard ordinances. We don't really see how it would function really that much different than the formal facility that was there before.
Find that there are kind of peak hours or visitation hours that would essentially cut off potential traffic at certain times? Like, is it, do visitors usually vacate by a certain hour and then it's pretty much shut down as far as incoming and outgoing activity?
Well, no, I think you're saying I think that probably the only time that would happen would be maybe during a holiday event or something where you might have a lot of people coming at one time. But other than shift changes, there is a considerable amount of stacking on the site as well. So we don't envision that anyone would be backing out into North Charter Drive or Congress Avenue because there's such a long stacking distance coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Romulus.
Would you make a commitment to the city to hire locally, both for the construction of the building and for local for the individuals that will actually operate the facility once built?
I wouldn't be able to speak to that. Mr. Gaza would have to speak to that.
We're asking basically for...
Local hire. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, yes,
And
we would make that commitment.
You guys will have a career fair?
Well-
Basically when you start hiring, you'll make an announcement, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
I would put a plug here that you do have South Tech right across the street from you. That is a school that actually creates CNAs, LPNs, so that would be a great place to start with local hiring. Thank you.
Yeah. No. All right. Is there any further comments from the board? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the major site plan modification? Do I have a second?
Second that with the understanding, with those stipulations of what we talked about here tonight.
The 2 car chargers and committing to full operational generator, yes.
Okay, and
hiring
local
locally.
hiring.
And local hiring.
Thank you. Second.
All right. All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. I think we need Shauna to read the next item, ordinance number 17-030.
An ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, authorizing the abandonment of a portion of the 20-foot wide alley right-of-way immediately west of 711 North Federal Highway and immediately north of Northeast 6th Avenue, more particularly described herein, subject to the staff comments, authorizing the city manager to execute a disclaimer which shall be recorded with this ordinance in the public records of Palm Beach County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Does Teresa need to be sworn in?
Swear or affirm that, and do you swear or affirm that your testimony will be true?
I do. Thank you.
Teresa Utterbeck, Boynton Beach CRA Development Manager. Before you is the request by the CRA for the abandonment of an alleyway located on the west side of 711 North Federal Highway. Any questions?
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward.
And that we are getting a sidewalk on the south side of that property?
Yes, along with the widening of 6th. So there's going to be improvement to the right-of-way also.
My only concern. Commissioner McCray?
Thank you. My concern is, for the record, where's Mr. Simon?
Mr. Simon is at FRA, Florida Redevelopment Conference in Daytona, accepting an award that we won.
Problem. Thank you.
Oh.
And let me open it up to public comment.
I've got a quick question. Are the woods, are they actively starting now? There any kind of construction on that new?
No.
No.
Not at this moment. I don't believe we have a fully executed purchase and development
Okay.
agreement. I think that's coming back before the CRA board this month.
Okay, that's something we can talk about then.
Okay.
All right.
One other question. Is the assistant director, is she there at that conference as well?
Yes, sir.
Wow, both of them gone, okay.
Some of your CRA the crab board members there
Two
too?
members of the CRAB board also are attending.
I'm aware of that. I was just concerned about the director and the assistant director. You answered my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good
I'm gonna
job, Teresa.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to open up to public comment. Saying none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Brandt,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Katz. Yep. Commissioner McCrae,
Yes.
Commissioner Romulus.
Aye.
Commissioner Casella.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
Thank you. On to the next ordinance, number 17-031.
Amendments to the Land Development Regulations, Chapter 1, Article 2, definitions in Chapter 3, Article 4, Section 3D, Table 3-28, use matrix, and footnote 57, to add definitions, use provisions, and standards that regulate the medical marijuana dispensary industry.
Thank you. Good evening, Commission. Vice Mayor Andrew Mack, Director of Development. I do have a brief presentation just so the public has some information so they can see what's being approved if they hadn't had a chance to see it in the backup. That's not, it's item 9, so you had it up before, Terry. There you go. Okay. Let's see. All right. The purpose, establish the regulations for marijuana dispensing facilities in the interest of public health, safety, and the general. And we're doing this to ensure the supply of marijuana to patients who qualify to obtain, possess, and consume the medical marijuana under the state law. There are some state preemptions, just highlighted some of those here. The city may not place specific limits on the number of dispensing facilities. We may not enact any regulations that are more restrictive than those for pharmacies. We may not charge a fee in amount greater than those charged to pharmacies, and they cannot be located within 500 feet of an elementary, middle, or secondary school. This is just a definition that we're proposing. Facility operated by MMTC, which is a medical marijuana treatment center. That's a term from the state bill in accordance, or the state statutes, in accordance with the Florida Department of Health that dispenses medical marijuana to qualified patients or caregivers. Yes, sir.
Is there also a preemption so that they cannot be next to each other?
We can only put the restrictions no further than what we have on pharmacies. There are some restrictions in our existing code for pharmacies, and I'll show you those in a second.
Okay, but I was thinking that I think the state said that you could be you have to be at least 2,500 feet from another dispensary. Is that?
I don't believe so. That's not in the state statutes.
Okay.
So we do have restrictions, for pharmacies. They would follow this under the same rules as those.
Okay.
And the other definition here is a medical marijuana dispensing facility does not prepare, transfer, cultivate, or process any forms of marijuana or marijuana product. It's a little harder to see here, but if you're looking at, this is our proposed zoning matrix. The first line is the actual medical cannabis dispensaries being permitted in the C1, C2, C3, C4, PCD, SMU, and all the mixed-use zoning districts, as well as the PID. There are footnotes there that are the same footnotes that correspond with the pharmacies. And these are those proposed changes to the existing and the proposed changes and the existing notes. Under General 1, the gross floor area cannot exceed 5,000 square feet. Under General Note 2, they cannot exceed 10,000 square feet, and these are corresponding to the C1 and C2 zoning districts. Under General Note, which is corresponding to the PID, has to be integrated into the mixed-use building or the development, cannot be more than 50% of the gross floor area or of any building, and cannot exceed 20% of the gross area of a development. That's for the PID. under 17, which is mixed use, all mixed use districts integrated into the mixed use building or development cannot be more than 50% of the gross floor area or any building, and cannot exceed 30% of a gross floor area of any development. Under mixed use 1, 2, 3, only allowed on lots fronting on arterial or collector roadways. And lot note 27, this is in the PID as well, allowed if located on mixed use land fronting arterial road or on arterial road, or if a development order is not solely for residential development. And this is note 57. All the others are existing, and they're staying, there's no changes to them. Under 57, we're adding the term medical marijuana dispensary. So under all districts, this is pertaining to the pharmacies. This isn't changing. The first one is no more than 15% of prescriptions sold within 30 days can be Scheduled 2. Pharmacies and drugstores satisfied by licensed pharmacists and must be present during all hours of pharmacy open. That's for pharmacies. Under that as well, under all districts, we're adding a note as well that says medical dispensing facilities may not be located within 500 feet of real property that comprises the public or private elementary school. This is in compliance with the state statute. And then under mixed use 4 and mixed use high, there's a 750-foot distance separation, and they can be, that's for anything under 5,000 gross square feet. Anything over 5,000 has to be 1,500 foot apart, and that is it. Basically, in a nutshell, we're adding the definitions, the zoning matrix, and updating the one note for the pharmacies to allow for the distance separations.
Andrew, just one quick question. You might know or might not know. What is the average square footage of a dispensary? Do you know? I know they're not large.
Typically under 5,000 square feet.
Under 5,000. Thank you.
Just as a side note, there are some performance standards in the state statute that do restrict operational. One of note is the operating hours are restricted from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., as well as some of the other provisions that we previously brought before you, that as far as where the seating could be, how they're handling cash and stuff like that is in state statute as well. So there are some regulations that in the state statute that do restrict operationally the dispensaries, which will be governed by the State Department of Health will do the inspections.
I got a question regarding the medical marijuana treatment center that produces edibles. Is that allowed?
Yeah, that's not done on site. This is strictly a pharmacy. They don't produce that here. So when they do produce it at the MMTC, which is the Medical Marijuana Treatment Center, that's where they grow the seed to sale part. So they actually grow it, make it there, and then they ship it to this part. And this is where they just strictly dispense it, just like a pharmacy. They don't make it on site.
So this is strictly dispensaries. This has nothing to do with growing or manufacturing.
Absolutely. Correct. It's just like a pharmacy. You go in and give them your prescription, you walk out with your product. They do not cultivate, grow, or make any of that stuff on site.
And so the fact that Boynton Beach has no more farms, we do not have to worry about medical marijuana growing in our city.
That I can't answer. I don't know exactly where the rules are. The state is something that they control as far as the location of the marijuana treatment centers.
All right, well, that's kind of where I got confused. So these are not medical marijuana treatment centers?
Well, if you look at the state statute, medical marijuana treatment centers, they are, but they're only when they're dispensing. They can only dispense in the city. So they can't do growing, they can't do any of that. It has to be done only dispensaries. That's the only thing we're approving right now.
Okay, so we're not approving any sort of growing within the city?
Correct.
Okay.
Andrew, aren't there only currently like 8, maybe 10 licenses at most for the whole state where these growers can actually grow this product?
Yeah, there are very specific requirements in the state statute to just as a prerequisite to become a grower, and as again the seed to sale. Right now, my understanding is there were 7, and I think they were required to approve 3 more by October 3rd or something like that. I'm not exactly sure if that was done or not. I know that they were coming down to the deadline as far as approving, and then I think once they hit another 100,000 registered patients, then they have to also increase the number from 10, I forget the exact number. And then also, based on state statute, each MMTC is only allowed to have 25 dispensaries total.
Okay, so we originally had the 2,500 feet away from another dispensary. That was our original.
Correct. That was
that's where I got
we were
confused.
proposing.
I'm sorry. Yes, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, so what you just said, that was going to be my question, that there's limitations as to how many locations statewide that any particular individual operator could open, so that the concerns about kind of mass proliferation of these dispensaries, would be limited by state statute. There couldn't be hundreds of them that open in an area.
My understanding is the way they do it is they allocate them per region. So based on population, that's how they allocate a certain number per region. So each facility or the grower is allowed 25 statewide. So they're only allowed a certain amount per region. Now you can only do 25 statewide. If you had 4, you could do 4 or in that southwest region or southeast region. They are able to purchase requirements, because there may be a grower that only can service this area but can't do Tallahassee, so they may end up doing 10 here because it's their backyard. But there is a certain specific number of how many can be in each region, and that's set by population.
Clarify something for me, because you just said 25, but now you're saying it's the growers that are capped at 25 statewide. It's not, you can have 25 in your city limits. I thought that's what I heard you say initially.
So they're allowed to have 25 total statewide. So a grower, they can have 25 statewide. So
what's the cap within a city?
There is none in the city. We have no requirements on any. We cannot.
We cannot
limit
cap
any number.
them.
Correct.
Okay.
But that is there are some provisions in the state statute that limit them by region. So there's a southeast region, a southwest region, a central region. So there are, and it's based on population. So there's a total number of dispensaries that they can have in a region. It could be any of the 7. They could have 25 in one. There's only a certain amount they have to purchase within. They have allocated in that region. So there's a total.
There is no distance separation?
I don't know what the total. No, there is no distance separation other than from a school, and what we have with the pharmacies in our existing code.
So 2 individual growers can put a dispensary right next to each other?
If they meet our zoning, whatever restrictions that we have in our zoning, which is in the mixed use high and the mixed use MU4, there's 750-foot separation and a 1,500. All the other zoning districts, they could be next to each other, yes. And that's something that the state statute preempts us from doing.
Unless we change our pharmacy regulations.
Correct. That would be the other alternative.
Okay. I'm going to let the board open to public comment, or would you like to go, Vice Mayor?
No, I was going to say public.
All right, so we're going to open up to public comment. If you'd like to speak, step up to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record. And if you haven't already, please state so to be sworn in.
Edward Tedman, 869 Northwest 8th Avenue. Curious, can these dispensaries sell other products as well? Could they be a pharmacy? Could they, are they limited to dispensing medical marijuana only and no other products?
There are specific requirements in the state statute. I'll read it to you. It says, may not dispense or sell any other types of cannabis, alcohol, or illicit drug-related products, including pipes, bongs, wrapping papers, other than marijuana delivery service devices required by the qualified physician. So they could have, right now they could not sell anything other than the dispensary, what's qualified under the physician. So it's, I forgot, the vaping is one of the others. Other than that, no, they could only sell what's required for dispensing the medicine.
Okay, but they wouldn't be selling other medical products?
Like what?
Well, like the drugstores are selling all kinds of things inside there. I'm just kind of curious if they
would need a
do
separate
they qualify as a dispensary? Do they qualify as a pharmacy? Is there any?
There would be
definition?
a separate use, a separate license for pharmacy then at that point.
So a pharmacy could not dispense medical marijuana?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So let's say they wanted to sell kind of like, I'm just referring to CVS, how they sell stuff that says as seen as on TV. If they want to do that, the medical marijuana, is that something that is not
right
allowed?
now it's silent to it. I don't think that it would be allowed, but that's something that I can clarify between the next reading for you.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you for seeing me. My name is Dr. Jeff Eater. I am an orthodontist in the city of Boynton Beach. I've been here for almost 20 years. 4959 Les Chalets Boulevard. I've got some real concerns with the whole concept of this talk about this as if it's sort of a foregone conclusion that this is just going to happen because it is. There are some very real issues with this whole concept of medical marijuana. There are only actually two forms of marijuana or cannabis that are actually legal, approved by the Food and Drug Administration for use for a variety of different medical issues, chronic pain and things like that. There is no actual evidence to support that marijuana actually does anything for patients in its typical form as it's advertised. The CDC, the American Medical Association all have very real information on their websites about these very issues. And bringing something like this to our town is a problem, as I see it as a practitioner, because we don't know anything about it. It's not like there is an evidence-based database of causes and effects of this and testing, clinical trials, things like that. They don't exist for this yet. I agree that there should be, because I do honestly believe that there will be a lot of good things that come out of those trials at some point. We've seen a couple of them, and I think that's great. But we're not there yet. And so we're, I think, really jumping the gun by allowing this, because the people that are operating these things are essentially lay people. These are not medically trained or pharmacists. They're like you, and they're in it for the money. And smoking marijuana causes lung cancer, it causes mouth cancer, just like cigarettes do. Here we are, big tobacco 2.0. We are finally getting a handle on cutting down smoking of cigarettes, and now we've got this coming in, and there's vape shops on every corner. One of the commissioners asked about how close these can be to one another. As I understand it, there's a main shop, but they're allowed to put out satellites, and I don't know that there's a number of those, and a specific number on those, and I don't think you have any control over it once they start. So if you approve it, there will be more of these around than there will be vape shops. And then we'll have people spinning signs on our corners pointing to marijuana as we're taking our children to school. I personally have a really big ethical problem with this just being rubber stamped, and that's sort of what it looks like is happening to you, to us as a town. I took an oath to do no harm to patients. When you give patients some kind of a medication, that's what they're calling it, we don't know anything about the dosage. The concentration varies wildly, so you could give somebody a prescription for this as a physician. They get it one time and they have maybe a therapeutic effect from it. The next time they get it, it could be 3 times the concentration, because there is really no clinical way of measuring this stuff. So if I hand you a bottle of pills and said, this is pain reliever, take it, and it's not labeled and you don't really know what it was, are you going to really seriously take that? That's essentially what we're doing here. And that's a problem in a major sort of way. I hope you really look at this hard, because you're opening Pandora's box here in a way that you are going to lose control of almost instantaneously once it's opened. And it then opens the door for the recreational use of marijuana, because that's where this is going. It's gone there in every other state that's started down this road. That's a problem in our town.
I'd like to respond in the sense that I think there's only 5 states with recreational, whereas there's about 26 with medical. And regarding what's coming into the city of Boynton Beach in the state of Florida, is that it is in the Constitution. You know, it was a supermajority, so it doesn't matter if we have a dispensary or not. Anyone in the state of Florida can have it delivered to them to have this. What I was stating on the radio is that having the dispensary within the city allows our residents the ability to talk to the doctors here and not have to just rely on a doctor that doesn't have a dispensary and then not even see what they're getting online instead of speaking with somebody. One of the weird things, though, is because it's been federally banned as a controlled one substance, you're correct, there is no really medical data that provides evidence that it cures or helps any of the 8 ailments that is in our Constitution. But one of the things that I have done is ask a couple of the sheriffs and police officers if anyone had tried to fight them when they were drunk, and they said yes. And when I asked, has anyone tried to fight you when they were high on marijuana, they said no. So that kind of shows that, well, these officers deal with it more often than I do, and it is what it is, and it's allowed in the state.
And it was approved by voters. Yet any other medication has to be rigorously tested and approved through the FDA. And somehow this just slipped through. And I don't understand that logic, and I don't know that we should be encouraging that when we have major opioid epidemics all around us in our neighboring towns. And here we are bringing something in that sort of opens the door to that. I don't know that we should be part of the problem. And I see this as a part of the problem as a practitioner.
Absolutely. And this is kind of what happens in the United States, is that we have the ability to change our Constitution in the state of Florida by a 60% vote. So we could literally make lots of things legal that are illegal on the federal level. As you know, this failed in 2014. And I saw the statistics in Palm Beach County, it was 75% that approved for this medical use. And so I'm, leaning forward in the sense that if it's 3/4, it kind of seems that we need to look at this differently, because these are lay people that are making this decision versus the people up in D.C. and those medical doctors for the controlled one substances. And yes, Commissioner Castillo.
Andrew, it's my understanding that this is not, the dispensaries will not be able to sell anything that is smokable, right? It's in pill form, oil form, that type of thing?
I think that's still up in the air.
Okay, but as it stands
state statutes,
stands right now.
My understanding is that is correct, but there's lawsuit pending.
So that would take away the lung cancer aspect of that.
That has not proven
And
to be
I would
a fact.
disagree with you, Doctor, and I'm not a doctor by any stretch of the imagination, but I think there have been studies done that this does provide some type of benefit to people with certain ailments or diseases. We can have that argument all day, and you'd probably win it, but I'm just saying that studies have been done. Like the good mayor said, that it's been approved by almost 3/4 of the population here. Whether they're smarter or not smarter than a doctor, that I don't know. Look, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and the stigma that we have on marijuana, even medical marijuana now, it lingers from the 60s and 70s. You're right. It's going to be a part of the American way, and I believe it's going to, through the whole state, 50 states, at some point, that this is going to be totally legal for various reasons, if nothing else, that it's going to be a money-making type operation. So the Constitution here in Florida says that it's legal. People obviously voted for it, to have it, and we're about to take a vote on our dispensaries here in Boynton Beach.
May I make one comment to that? There have been some studies on this, but the studies that have been done are based on non-scientific methods of looking at this. It's extremely anecdotal information. I did this and I feel better. There are scientific ways of looking at the efficacy of drugs, and they have to prove themselves so that they're not harmful, so that they're not going to do damage to pregnant mothers or newborn babies, things like that, because nobody can say at this point whether that's even a risk, and there's not even a warning on these things at this point. So now you've got people in your city that are maybe nursing mothers and taking medications, and there isn't any evidence to support any benefit that's met the standard for federal Food and Drug Administration approval. You can say that, yeah, it's been studied. It really hasn't been studied the way it needs to be studied, and you're being sort of bluffed into fake news, fake science, as it were, that there is evidence on this. It's not there yet. It will come. There was no question there will be some, but we need to get to that point, and we're not there yet, and that's my concern.
Well, let me ask you this question then, Doctor. What do you feel about alcohol? Would you say that is a form of a drug?
It is. There's no question. And the difference between medication and poison is dosage. It's as simple as that.
Would you say more people take a higher dosage of alcohol than they do pills?
Not in South Florida, they don't.
No?
They're not dying from...
And I just...
Have you ever heard anybody dying from marijuana?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
People OD'd on marijuana?
There have been situations, and it's not necessarily ODing. There have been situations, in fact, I was just reading a couple of cases today where there have been patients that took medical marijuana, and it caused them to just essentially flip out, and they do crazy things, and they hurt or kill themselves. There was one guy that jumped out of a balcony. He just went crazy after he took this stuff, and he literally fell to his death out of a balcony. And there are other positions. There's another situation where a woman shot her child right after taking some medical marijuana. So they're not necessarily overdose issues in the way that we've been hearing about deaths, but yes, there are ramifications to this. And you can't even detect this stuff. If somebody's stopped for a DUI or suspected DUI, you don't have any way of measuring it. So if you've got a dispensary that's right next to I-95 and they take something as they're walking out into the parking lot or getting in their car, and then they get in their car and turn on I-95 and kill somebody, there's an issue there that's a liability issue to a degree. I don't know what the chances of all those things happening are in our city. It's possible, and it has happened. So the answer to your question is yes, people can die from it. Not the usual way, but yes, they can. So,
thank you.
Sure. Let me see if I've got anything else.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak? Seeing none, is there anybody, final comments from the board? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
1 second.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
I call him Dr. Jeff because I can't seem to remember his last name. But I spoke to Jeff earlier on the phone, and I kind of laid out my position that I was in support of this, and I told him that I appreciated his willingness to come tonight and speak to his position. So while I can't agree with his position through my vote, I just wanted to say that I do appreciate you coming out and contributing to the process.
I'll do it too, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Commissioner Ramos, would you like to speak?
Yes. My comments regarding this is that I am a advocate, or not. I would rephrase and not use advocate. I would simply say that I am in support of this move in terms of doing things that help clients, patients, in order to have better quality of life or end of life, depending on what they're taking the medical marijuana for. Where I fall away or shy away from this legislation is simply just the fact that we as a city, we as a municipality, we lost our ability to legislate in terms of the way that these facilities will be coming into our city. When that happened, that is when I fell to the wayside about supporting this, because I feel that we as a city should get to dictate and control how many, how spread apart, who licenses. We should get to dictate those things, and we've lost that ability, and that has been usurped by the Florida legislation. And again, I feel that is something that is superseding their powers, and we as a legislative body should get to dictate what happens within our city limits, what happens within our city borders. So that being said, I will not be in support of this tonight.
Yes, Commissioner McCray.
Thank you, Doc. I appreciate you for coming as well. I do concur with what you were saying. I'm a licensed funeral director and embalmer, so I've seen a lot, just like you have seen a lot. I did not vote for it when it was placed on the ballot for the state of Florida, sir, and I would not be voting for it tonight.
Further comments? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Katz.
Yes.
Commissioner McCray.
Nay.
Commissioner Romulus.
No.
Commissioner Casella.
Yes.
And Mayor Grant.
Yes.
The vote is 3-2.
All right. City Manager's Report, discussion of process selling city-owned land requested by Vice Mayor Katz. And so I would like to let city staff discuss what exactly are our options.
Clicking on the wrong one. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. So at the request of Vice Mayor Katz, we did include our ordinance in the backup, and we do have some information on some of our vacant lands, Commission, but just we weren't sure where we wanted to take the conversation. But as far as process, and bear with me, I'm sorry, I was clicking on the wrong item and I lost my attachment. Back in 2012, revised our ordinance to allow us to, prior to that, were required to place land out for public bid to dispose of it. We amended our ordinance in 2012 to allow us the flexibility to potentially use a realtor of sorts, to not have to just go to formal bid. We've done that in the past with lands and have been very unsuccessful when the market typically knows that a public entity is wanting to sell some land, you get really lowballed, and we've experienced that on many occasions. So we went back and took a look at our ordinance, and right now we have a process that allows the commission, should say somebody's interested in buying a piece of land, they could submit a letter to me, and I review it and bring forward to the City Commission for discussion as to whether or not you want to allow me to enter into negotiations, say, on the sale of the land. And ultimately, that sale would come back to the Commission. We have the option also to hire a broker if we decide we want to sell some land. And as similar as to what the CRA has done recently, using a broker to acquire land, where we aren't identified as the party necessarily, but it just helps. It helps in negotiation. So we have the flexibility, and I know there were a couple sites the Commission discussed a few meetings ago, namely the site in Leisureeville that you asked us to bring this back. So we have the ordinance and we have the parcels, and we'll take it from there.
All right, Vice Mayor.
What you'd like to do.
Yeah, just in reference to the site to the east of Leisureeville, I've been in conversation with Habitat for Humanity, which is interested in the site. I've been in conversation with Leisureeville, which has been interested in acquiring the site for some time. And then obviously the third option is to try, as the city manager mentioned, to give it to a broker and try to have them advertise it. Basically, the parcel that the city owns could fit upwards of 10 to 11 single-family detached houses, which are exactly what that area and that neighborhood is. What I would personally like to do with the site, if I had my wish, I know that I spoke to the residents of Leisureeville regarding the property. Their desire is to acquire the whole thing, but they're limited by financial restraints of the community. So I would be personally in favor of allocating a portion of the property, particularly the south end, which is kind of locked in between some existing Leisureeville structures to them, either for free or for a nominal price, because it's only a small portion of the property, and then try to send the rest of the property out to broker to potentially be sold off for development, with the ability, even with giving a portion to Leisureville, to build, upwards of a half dozen houses, potentially one or two more, even at, a small amount per parcel, so to say. The city could generate a couple $100,000 if there was a buyer out there, which I think the market supports in that area. Those single-family houses sell in the $200,000 range, which actually borders on, what is classified as affordable housing with regards to single-family units of that size. So, I'd be looking for support to have staff look at the parcels, see what segment they might be able to chop off and allow Leisureville to expand. They mentioned wanting to build either an additional recreation facility or potentially even a dog park, a fenced-in area for their residents, and then going out to broker the remainder of the property for single-family detached.
My thoughts is that I think what the city manager said regarding if someone's interested, they'll let us know, is kind of where I'm at, in that, I know that Leisureville spoke with you. However, Leisureville has not spoken with, I don't think, the whole commission. So kind of what we see in the CRA, that if someone is looking for land that is in the city or the CRA, that they do the letter of intent so we can discuss it and then see if anyone else is interested, and whether we do an RFP or to go by the letter of intent. Commissioner McCray.
Thank you. I want to thank staff for bringing this list to us. I want to discuss map number 171 and 172, which is Rolling Green Municipal Complex that is owned by the city. Speaking again from what citizens over there have been telling me, and I'm going to echo it again, that is, they said that it's poorly kept. Rats are constantly over there with the garbage cans, etc. And if anybody want to buy that, hopefully, I don't care where they go, I'm just saying the citizens over there, they feel like, it's been inundated, and they said it's not being kept, and this is city-owned property. And they're telling me about, Commissioner, the rats are running from over there to their homes, and, y'all said that I always speak about what people say. Well, I'm telling you what they're saying about this property, these two properties, because they're not happy living around them. So if anybody want to buy them, I'm willing to step to the plate and say, let's sell.
I'd actually ask, I know that the city uses it. It has the name of the graveyard, dumpster graveyard. Do we have any plans for this to improvement, or, because I see that it's 9 acres, and that's a good chunk of land that we could use for because the public works location is getting very cramped, and however, this is behind a neighborhood, and so I'd like to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah, Colin Groff, Assistant City Manager. That's a very tough site to develop because it is behind a neighborhood. It doesn't have access except through the neighborhood. There is potential access to it that we've discussed before with y'all for when we looked at some other uses. If it's the Commission's wish, we could definitely bring back something as time allows. Staff's pretty busy right now, but as time allows, bring back some future planning for that particular site. Right now, it is used. You have to have a place to put your dumpsters and your garbage cans and things like that to store them. It's probably good that we're not storing them at Public Works because that's in the middle of the neighborhood. At least this is behind the neighborhood, trying to keep it as close to 95 as possible, but it's not ideal. So I think, if it's the Commission's wish to look at that piece of property, we can do it and bring some things back. And the other piece that was discussed, our recommendation is to have anybody who's interested, have them follow the procedure, write us a letter, write city manager a letter asking that they would like to participate. Staff will review it and work with them and come up with the plan that we can deliver back to you guys to discuss, review, and approve if you decide to go in that direction. So that's our recommendation, is bring them to us, and then we'll bring you back our recommendations.
And so let's say, I know that we have some parks available, land for parks. So if someone wants to help with the park, the city would be more than grateful to work with anyone who wants to help build parks on our parkland. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner McCray.
Thank you. In regards to the two parcels that I spoke about, we are not interested in moving Public Works from where it is over to those two locations. The reason is that we was promised years ago, and I can attest because I've been here 64 years, that they was trying to move Public Works out of the neighborhoods, period, and find a place somewhere else. So we're not going to be at liberty, and I'm going to go ahead and speak for to have a Public Works facility stuck, whether it's behind or in front of a neighborhood over there. They're already upset right now with the dumpsters over there.
Anything? Yes?
The Nichols Boulevard up there, there's a couple of parcels, I think it's almost like 7 acres maybe?
Yeah, Jeff Livergood, the Nichols property was part of a land swap with West Side Baptist Church a number of years ago.
How many years ago, Jeff?
Oh my goodness, 25, 30 years ago.
So that was a land swap deal 25, 30 years ago. That land's been sitting there for 25, 30 years. And I bet half the people here don't even know where it is. Okay, so my point here is that, well, if people were interested in our vacant land, they'd approach the city. Well, you can't sell something if people don't know where it is or if it is even for sale.
But let me tag on to that,
All right, tag
Commissioner, because that was also part of, Palm Beach County was part of that process. So those properties are deed restricted. They must be for public use.
So that 7 acres up there is for public use.
Everything in
so
that.
we could make no one could build on that.
It must be for public use.
So
it
we
could
can
be
put
a park.
So a couple of years ago,
building.
a couple of years ago, when we were talking to Auburn there about some land swapping, give them that land, and we were going to do something else over here, and I forget now the whole story.
Yeah.
But on Seacrest, do you remember that?
Yeah, I recall it. I wasn't part of it. There's been some other discussions in land swap with the county as far as housing goes. But the primary thing to point out tonight, because when you look at selling these properties and when you look at doing something different, it's a lot more process that we need to go through than simply a quick agenda item for tonight's meeting. We'd have to do a lot more research on that, because any deed restrictions, we'd have to work with the legal staff to see what it would take to undo that.
Jeff, with that being said, why would a property sit there with deed restrictions on it for 25, 30 years and no one had that discussion? Why does it take 25, 30 years to have that kind of discussion?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
It's a very good question.
It's a great question.
We ask it ourselves.
I think for years and years, it was probably fear of resistance of the neighborhood, of the neighbors.
Well, we're in fear of that every day up here.
Well, I mean, but that's a policy decision of the commission. But yeah, there has never been we had one discussion. How many years ago with?
In 2014 was the last one.
Okay, let's have that. So let's have some dialogue, and we'll bring it forward and see, map out some type of strategy here.
All right.
Well, yeah, I need some direction. What would you like us to do?
So
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask for, is
We'll go one
direction.
by one. Commissioner.
Okay, it's in my district. I'm talking about the Nichols property there. Get in dialogue with the county and see what it would take, or if it's even possible, to get those deed restrictions off, or how you go about that. That's beyond my pay grade.
So that's two pieces
That's two pieces there.
We have a list. We've gotten some comments on two of those pieces, which we can definitely look at and bring back, some ideas. We can reach out to Leeserville. I mean, we know them. We talk to them. We talk to their management company all the time. We'll look at that one and work up what can be done, how can you do it, and all that. Is there any other? We're just trying to look for direction, because we have a lot on our plates, and we just want to make sure we
reach
know.
out to Leeserville.
Right. Do you want us to reach out? And,
yeah, I mean, I'd go along with that.
So and bring it back to the board.
So we'll tackle those two, and Rolling Green, we're going to bring something on Rolling Green too.
Okay.
And we're just going to bring some.
What are we doing about Rolling Green, other than I'm going to take a look at rat infestation, and if we need to start doing some pest control, Commissioner?
No, ma'am.
We'll take a look at that.
It's the fact is that if that Nichols property is public use, the dumpsters could go there. Is that what you're saying?
Let me go ahead and make a statement. In regards to rolling in regards to Rolling Greens, what we're looking at is that I'm just saying we have places where we could, put more homes over there. And this is what I'm saying. If there want to be another subdivision, this is what I'm looking at. Okay. I'm not worried about garbage cans now. I'm worried about building up that neighborhood over there.
That means
It's the same question. I think the question is what can be done with that?
correct.
Whether or not there's restrictions on it, we have to look at, we'll go through all that and on each piece. Look what restrictions are on it, what can be done.
And so basically, we're looking into the Nichols Boulevard property, the Leisureville, and the Rolling Green site.
So we're interested possibly in a redevelopment opportunity on the Rolling Green site, is I think what I'm hearing. Commissioner McCray?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
And Vice Mayor?
Yeah, just I had another inquiry specifically from Habitat about the scrub parcel behind the baseball diamond at Galaxy adjacent to 95. I guess it's on the corner of Northwest 8th and Northwest 5th. What exactly would we be looking at with that property as far as potential?
That's in District 2. We was approached.
I need some opportunity to take a look at what all is scrub and if there's anything protected. And I know there's tortoises back there. I just don't know on how much of that piece is actually scrub versus just overgrowth.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that there's interest in redevelopment there, so whatever staff can bring back.
Okay.
I think we have direction.
Okay, good.
All right, thank you. That's what we're looking for.
Well,
wait,
Commissioner
I'm not
Ramos?
done yet.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, save the best for last. But for Girl Scout Park, what is the plan on that? What is the intention of how we plan to move forward on that parcel?
Yeah, again, there's some restrictions. We did present that one last time we were here. There are some restrictions on that property. We have been approached by some private companies that might be interested in partnering with the city. I think that's something you can't force, but we can certainly just continue to reach out. I know Wally's been working with somebody on that to see if there's a consortium of private companies that would like to develop. And it's not just developing the park, it's developing the park and putting a trust in that would maintain the park. So there may be some interest in that. And we told you last time we met with you on that park that we're still working that direction. It hasn't. These things don't happen overnight. I wish they did. They don't happen overnight, but I think we've started the ball rolling to see if there's that interest in coming in and actually putting together a passive park. I mean, it would be, it would fit the neighborhood. If we did a park, they would have to fit the neighborhood. And we all know that. That's so.
Well, and it's a matter of funding and so forth. And that along with several others, as I know I see Mr. Katz in the audience, would be happy to talk to us about Meadows Park that sits undeveloped and unimproved. So I know our Recreation and Parks Advisory Board has a priority list of what they deem. They tour our parks every year, reevaluate and establish what they consider to be priority areas of parks to make a recommendation to the commission. But they've all been sitting there mostly, Commissioner, honestly, is because of lack of capital funding and for improvements, and then being able to take on maintenance costs of some of these parks. FP&L, Girl Scout, what's the one on Chapel Hill?
Girl Scout.
Is that Girl Scout?
Yes, that's Girl Scout.
Yeah, Meadows, Quantum, we have several lands that we just haven't been able to.
I believe we had a discussion in terms of potentially the influx that the surtax is going to be giving us, that we could potentially now allocate some extra funding towards our capital projects that we have been pushing back and prioritizing certain things. So personally, I'd like to see staff give priority to some of these parks that have been sitting for a very long time, that have been waiting for development, or that have been promised development for a very long time. I'd like to see how we could move that forward.
And we'll continue to bring things back to you as those develop. It's a continual process all the time.
And I don't disagree. Now, keep in mind, for new parks, we have the park impact fees. Those dollars are available for that. We have pretty much allocated our surtax dollars for the next 10 years for maintenance of existing land.
That's more. That's more.
And I'm not referencing the surtax. I'm referencing the money that we were allocating on our capital side that would have been used for the search infrastructure. Now that we have the surtax money, we can free up those capital dollars. That's what I'm saying. So I know how it works. I know the rules. I'm just saying, right.
Well, a good part of that, those capital dollars were never there. That's why that work wasn't done. So it doesn't necessarily free up a whole lot of money, but we'll certainly take a look, and that's something we can talk about in the new budget year. But and I will say, I know we have a new member on the Greater Boynton Beach Foundation board who is a resident over there, but very interested in some fundraising opportunities and making that a priority for the foundation board to maybe take a look at being able to do some improvements in Girl Scout Park. So that conversation's happening there too.
Glad to hear that.
Jeff, quick question. How many parks, do we have like 28, 29 parks here in the city limits?
Yeah, the number off the top of my head, Amy?
It's 29.
Wally?
There he is.
Wally Majors, Recreation and Parks Director. We have 29 developed parks, 7 undeveloped park sites. And a lot of this discussion, and I know it's been a while, took place when we brought before you our system master plan. We talked about all our facilities, including these undeveloped park sites. And that's where we basically indicated that for the next several years, our focus is going to be on maintaining what we got and taking advantage of opportunities when they come up through grants or partnerships and other things that will at least alleviate the burden on our general fund as it relates to developing and maintaining our parks. So, yeah, but also keep in mind some of this undeveloped park site is there because eventually the city is going to continue to grow. And to some degree, we've stated in our comprehensive plan that we're going to maintain 2.5 acres per 1,000 residents. We're right around there right now. And that 2.5 acres can certainly be something that we discuss from time to time. We can go a little higher, we can go a little lower, but that also has an impact on our impact fees. But ultimately, those undeveloped park sites are there for, among other reasons, to be able for us to sustain the growth that eventually the city is going to have to move into.
Let me ask you this, Wally. Out of the 29 parks that we do have, active parks now, are we in position to maintain them properly? Is the city maintaining them properly?
If you want to help
I'll answer that. No. We struggle with maintenance, and that's why we're very thankful that the surtax passed.
Okay. All right. So we're struggling with the parks we already have. And we have 7 passive parks, or 7 parcels that potentially could be parks. So where do these dollars come from to maintain it? How we make that, do we need 29 parks? Are all the parks that are parks functioning what they were designed to function for? Those are the questions we should be asking. I mean, listen, I love parks. But if we can't maintain it and it's not functioning as it was designed to function, then why have the name park after it? It's nothing but a parcel of land that's not serving a purpose.
That's a question. It's an essential question of what government services are and what services we provide to the public. It's part of recreation staff, the Rec and Park Board, and the City Commission makes those policy decisions.
I'm an advocate for parks, don't get me wrong. But, you can have too many of a good thing. If we can't maintain what we have and then it suffers, the whole program suffers. No one's getting enough, money or food at the table to nourish them.
Just mentioned my frustrations over the last 10 years. It's difficult to maintain.
It only took me 4 years to get here. It took. That's just a statement talking off the cuff. Thank you.
Wally, don't go. Since you're up there, how much money do we have in the Parks Impact Fee? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me ask the city manager.
Yeah.
No,
I don't have that
about
off the top of my head. I'm thinking a few $100,000.
No, it's about.
Is it up to
about 5, 6?
Yeah.
I was looking to Tim,
But
which is
I can
not
get that
fair.
tomorrow. I
It's
just
not
need to
fair.
pull it
to
up.
look at you.
What is that money supposed to be?
I think it's right around the 500 range, but it's been a while since
all right,
actually.
while we're around the range, what is that money supposed to be used for?
For park development or improvement.
Okay, you're sitting there doing
Regional, isn't it? Does it have to be?
It depends. The first
Right, there's some restrictions.
place that we need to look is within the area from which it's collected. So when a developer comes in with a residential project, and he pay an impact fee, we look within that area that impact fee was collected. If there was no need for an improvement or a development in that area, then we can look at parks that have a district service area. And that's why, for example, we're making some improvements to Barrier-Free Park with that.
Hey, manager, let me say this. In regards to what he just said, get me the amount and also the information that I need so I know what I'm doing when I talk to Parks about what he just said. Okay, I need it in writing, black and white.
Yes, sir, we have an ordinance.
Thank you.
I'll get that to all of you tomorrow.
Thank you.
And this is my point here. We're putting $1.3 million into Sarah Sims Park for mostly aesthetics, okay? And we have no plan Plan B, and how we're going to maintain it after we spend the $1.3 million. And we'll be having the same discussion 4 years, 5 years down the road when the parks deteriorate. And that's my point. If we have parks, let's maintain them to the highest standard. If we can't do that, then let's not make them parks. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Any further comments?
Just for me,
Yes.
I'm going to summarize the back to the property. Nichols Road,
Yep.
Leisureville,
Yep.
Rolling Green, and look at the Galaxy Scrub area. Okay. Those 4 different items will probably come back to you at 4 different times because they all have different time frames of research and things that we need to do. If that's okay.
Jeff, can we throw the meadows in there too?
And as well.
That's been we've been having that discussion since I've been elected. And it's,
Wally, we need your help on that one. Sure.
Let Boom speak.
All right. So,
thank you.
all right. Anything further? Seeing none. Moving on to proposed resolution number 17-099, approve and authorize the First Amendment to the Homeless Resource Center interlocal agreement with Palm Beach County. Any discussion?
Not discussion. Is somebody going to address this? What are we doing? I'm just saying, staff, you ready to tell us? Lori, I'm just saying, what is the local agreement that we're doing?
We have had for quite some time, and Chief, I might need your help on that. But with the homeless, with Palm Beach County, it's an interlocal agreement. They have the Homeless Resource Center that's up in West Palm, the Lewis Center. We have this interlocal addresses the protocols on how when we in our city have come across or encounter a homeless individual, that we avail the opportunity when we can to take them up there. So I think the agreement mostly is about transport and referring the individual up to the center. We agree to pay that cost, so it's our police officers that will typically transport. Honestly, and maybe I don't think we do it all that often because individuals mostly decline to go. So they're bringing back the amendment, though, it's a housekeeping item more so. They have to add, as amendments come up for renewal, they have to add the language in there that the IG exists and that they follow the rules of the IG and non-discrimination clause. So that's these 2 clauses are being added to our current interlocal. But maybe you can elaborate.
I couldn't have said it any better myself.
All right, since you couldn't say it any better, let me go ahead and address this. What are we doing about the panhandlers that's out on I-95? I'm just saying, where we look at every day, I'm just saying they're homeless.
I don't believe we have any restriction that disallows them to be doing that.
They are homeless, often, but not always. And they aren't supposed to be panhandling on an exit or entrance ramp to an interstate.
Yes, another question, since I'm there, because I really wanted to get there. Who's responsible for cleaning up the trash that they leave up there? I'm just saying, we're talking about making Boynton look beautiful, and here we come 95, and we see bags of trash, black bags out there and stuff. I'm just saying, I know if I could see it, staff could see it. Anybody said, well, let me just stop by and grab this. Dump trucks go by there, garbage trucks goes by there, and y'all talking about I have a reason not to say something. I have a reason to say a lot of things. Yeah, I'm just saying you all need to be picking stuff up. I'm just saying the trucks pass by, regular flatbed trucks, regular little trucks like I have, and they just look at it and just ride on through. And then we just did $150,000 for fuel, and it bothers me.
5 million?
1.5 million, thank you.
It's DOT land and responsibility, Jeff.
It's all DOT land, so it would be all DOT responsibility to keep it clean. Now, we do hire a contractor, and we go through the exit ramps where people stop at the red light and they throw stuff out. We do those locations because we realize that's an entrance to our city. But you're right, Commissioner. It's probably our number one frustration in our Public Works Department. We're garbage collectors. We're not litter pickers. And that's a very time-intensive, labor-intensive thing to pick up litter.
My question regarding the panhandlers, if they're not supposed to do that, what recourse does the city have so that they don't do it continuously?
We can stop them. We can field interview them. In some cases, we can arrest them depending on their conduct. But it's a matter of resources and a matter of priorities.
I think rush hour would be great. if you can do that then, hours between 4 and 6 in the afternoon and 7 and 9. It's just a suggestion because that's where...
I'm certainly open to that.
All right.
So when I see a panhandler, like yesterday, walking barefoot down the off-ramp to 95 off Gateway, barefooted, dazed, with a sign that needs food and praise God, I should call?
You can call us or you can call Star FHP.
Well, the other day also, there was an individual on the overpass, Gateway, and he was acting very strangely, doing Zen-type moves on top of the overpass. One of your officers drove right by him. I was at the red light there, and I was very concerned, and I called it into your dispatcher to have someone check this individual out. I mean, I don't know what he was doing or why he was doing it, and it might have been okay. But my point is that the officer drove right by this individual who was really strange behavior.
I can't speak to what the
I know, but I can speak to it because I was there. I saw it, and then I called it into your dispatcher. Thank you.
Okay, motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Chief Katz, we're not going to stay up there. Next, we have Commissioner Casella has requested to discuss the possibility of adding a monthly report on the red light camera program to the consent agenda.
They're back. This is one of these votes where I lost. I'm not here to discuss the red light cameras per se themselves. What I am here to discuss and ask this commission to do is that we get a report back, like I had asked for, like our legal expenses, and put it on a consent agenda. And it doesn't have to be every month. I would say I'd be very happy on a quarterly basis that we get a report back to us that, what's happening with the red light cameras, how the accidents, any accidents, pro or con, minus a plus, the revenues generated by these tickets and that revenue, how it's broken down. Now, I do this for transparency. Transparency, folks. I mean, I'm tired of people coming up to me, and I'm sure you've all been approached. The city's making $1 million on these red light cameras. It's a revenue generator thing. And I tell you, no, it's not a huge revenue generator. So it's all I would ask this commission to consider that on a quarterly basis that this type of report comes out and put it under the consent agenda so the public could either view it or not view it.
Quarterly report. And one of the things that I also like to say is that I know that the numbers have gone up. It's also the population has gone up. So I don't know if the system is calibrated to count all the vehicles that go through, but it's kind of like I would like it on a percentage basis, not just a number basis.
That's a reasonable expectation, and I think we can fulfill that.
Anything further from the board?
But yes, while we're doing that, can somebody just check on the timer for that red light camera for Mr. Garcia, who's from District 2, who's saying he wants us to look into it? Somebody can look into it and get a report to me?
Basically what we're suggesting is that I don't know of any other city or county that has it here in the state of Florida. It's kind of like, where would we have to put some legislative push or resolution behind to get that sort of counter in the city of Boynton Beach?
That would be the county engineer. We don't have anything to do with the timing of the lights, despite the fact that we have the program, but we can certainly reach out to them.
Oh, I'm not talking about the timing of the lights. It's actually a counter, similar to what we see on the walking cross lines, where it shows you have 20 seconds to cross.
Gotcha.
They want to show that there's 20 seconds left of that green light. So instead of
that's still a county engineer.
It's still the county engineer, and I broached the issue with Palm Beach County traffic engineering staff and the county engineer. They are not in favor of doing that on their signals, and I've advised all parties of that.
Yeah, we've been talking to Mr. Garcia about this for 6 months, and we did talk to the county. The county has no interest.
So if we would have to
very
speak to the
expensive,
county,
I'm sure, too.
We'd have to speak to the county commissioners to get.
And I don't
not a
even
traffic control device.
recommend it as an engineer.
No.
Let me go ahead and excuse me. Let me go ahead and let me sum this up, because it's really bothering me when people come and say, they looking for things, and you spoke to parties. Okay, if we'd have put something in writing to Mr. Garcia, then all of us sitting up here would have had a record, and then when he come up before us, then it's null and void. This is what I'm saying, saying this is what we found out, and this is it.
I actually saw those in work when I went to Taiwan, and it's amazing because then you get to know that there's 30 seconds left on that red light, or there's 1 second left on that green light. And so I will thank you for giving us the information. So we'll lobby, I guess, the county commissioners to see if we can't have a pilot program within the city of Boynton Beach to see if that makes a difference, because we have the numbers for our red light camera intersections. So it would make sense to start in Boynton Beach.
Mayor?
Yeah.
I just want to give you all a little bit of information just that might help you frame your point of view. The county does control the traffic signals, but the timing of the traffic signals is set by the state of Florida. So the reason why the county is probably hesitant to put the countdown timers on the signal itself is because from year to year, the state of Florida often changes how long the timing is for the yellow, how long the timing is for the red or the green based on the speed on the road. So because it fluctuates, that might be, I'm just trying to give you a little bit of information.
I understand.
That might be why they're a little bit pushing back on your suggestion.
It is an expensive piece of equipment,
Yeah.
and we're dealing with a lot of computer where if something's off, you can't have two
Right.
green lights in an intersection. It's very bad.
Yeah.
And so I understand that, but it is something that we may be able to go forward. And then the other question I had regarding traffic is that our Pirate Fest, are we working with the county controlling what is it, when Pirate Fest ends? I know that the West Palm Beach Police work well with the county engineer to get everyone out versus the sheriff's office at the county fairgrounds. So are we going to be working with, or are we going to have like the pickle system?
We are going to be working. We have a very comprehensive plan to deal with a variety of issues relating to traffic and safety.
All right, appreciate it.
I have a question, Shanna. You just made a statement that depending on traffic flow, they can change, I hate using that word, change the timing of the lighting of yellow, red, depending on traffic flow.
Yeah.
So the 15 locations we have cameras, could those at some point, depending on traffic flow, be altered, like for the timing as yellow lights?
Yeah, it's not the traffic flow, it's the speed limit on the road.
Okay.
So so if the higher the speed limit,
right,
typically the longer the yellow light is.
Okay.
But the state of Florida sets that. And we had a situation like maybe 4 years ago where it changed, and Broward County didn't change their timing. Like the state had changed how long it should be, and Broward County Engineering didn't change their timing immediately when the state had changed the rule. So that's why it's sometimes the counties don't change it as quickly as they should, and I think it's kind of hard for whatever reason for them to keep up with that. But that's how it is. It's governed by the speed limit of the road because you want to make sure that the vehicles have enough time to stop, because yellow means slow down. It doesn't mean speed up.
Okay, so they would notify us that they would be changing that, and we could make that adjustment with our cameras.
They don't notify us. No, and we don't change the cameras. They don't notify the
Well, I
city
understand
at
we
all.
don't change the cameras, and that's
Yeah.
my point. We're changing the timing of the lights depending on the traffic, how fast the traffic is moving.
The county does.
The county does,
Yes.
whoever does it, okay? So that could affect on the timing of a yellow light versus a red light? No?
No, it's just how long the light is yellow.
Shauna, could you get us the statute that explains how long the yellow light is based upon the speed limit?
No. It's because it changes. So
No. If it's 35 miles per hour, it's supposed to be 4 seconds.
4 seconds,
If
and
it's
then
45 miles per hour, it's supposed to be 5 seconds.
Right.
If it's 25, it's still supposed to be 4 seconds because that's the minimum. Is there I believe there's a statute.
There's a statute that says that it has to be set by regulation, and then the regulation says what the seconds are.
I'd love that paperwork.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I'd still like to hear from Mr. Livergood why he's opposed.
Definitely very good. Mainly because I believe that it's a human behavioral issue. The more that we distract the motorist at an intersection and give them more things to watch, ends up potentially distracting them and giving in changing accident rates at intersections. Motorists do anything they can to game the system and to use it to their advantage. As a professional engineer, and I don't do traffic a lot, but I believe that it's best that we maintain national standards on the operation of traffic signals so that there's consistency from state to jurisdiction across our country. That's why I believe that. That said, that's my opinion as an engineer. Others may have different opinions.
Other comments regarding traffic or lights? I think we have a consensus for the quarterly report. Thank you. Next, Shauna, you are requesting a special meeting?
Yes. Pursuant to Section 286.011, subsection 8 Florida statutes, the city attorney is requesting a private attorney-client session of the city commission to discuss pending litigation in the following case: Hassan Kaliskan, plaintiff, versus the city of Boynton Beach defendant, case number 50-2015 CA 008096 XXXXMB. The city attorney, James Sheriff, will be in attendance, along with Assistant City Attorney Tracy DiCarlo, City Manager Lori Laveria, a court reporter, the mayor, and the city commission. We will need approximately 30 minutes. We are requesting that the shade session be set for November 7th, and that's the next commission meeting. And the reason that we are requesting that specific date is because the following week is when the trial is scheduled to commence. So we would need the commission's direction prior to the trial date.
What time is that 4 o'clock meeting we was going to vote on? Was that the 7th?
That was the 7th.
Yeah, we were going to suggest that we do this after the meeting, but again, as soon as I know, I'm meeting with the developer tomorrow, Mayor, to know if that workshop's going to happen.
You know, the issue is that since we're having meetings from 4 to almost 6:30, is it okay, Tim, for us to have dinner provided by the city?
Yes.
Okay. Then I'm fine with it being on
Tim
the 7th.
didn't say yes. I didn't hear that.
I heard Laura.
We'll work for food. So are we willing to do it afterwards at this point? Now, Sean, I was going to ask that if the commission, if we end up postponing the workshop, can we set the closed door for after the meeting now? If the workshop's postponed, move it to before, or do you have to take another action?
I think
You're setting the date.
That's it.
And you can set it. You can even set them both to start at 4. So that whenever it happens, it happens. Yeah.
So I'm just going to let the commission know that we'll have it on the same time as the workshop, and that whenever the workshop ends, we'll have that, and whether we get it to before the 7th meeting or after the 7th meeting.
Let me make sure I'm clear. The workshop starts at 4 o'clock, and if we don't have the workshop, are we still having this shade session at 4 o'clock?
No.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure I
No, and I'll let you know, and we could push that closer to 5:30.
Correct.
Right. That's 5:30 with no dinner. Okay, I'm good. Let's go.
All right. And we have a new item for a discussion of public art for our future agenda items. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Excuse me, before we do that, I'd like to add a discussion item for a future agenda. I'd like to ask that we start providing quarterly reports on the surtax income and also the projects that are going on with it. I'd like to have that possibly be put on the consent agenda.
So Lori, I know that we have a committee that looks at the surtax review. Do they meet quarterly?
No, I think they'll probably meet once during the year, and then at the close of the year. It's just more from an audit standpoint. So
I guess
quarterly, we can do the quarterly. It's just
you know.
Just checks coming in and what projects are currently on the books that are being used with those surtax dollars. Just,
Revenues to
again,
date and projects underway.
Yes,
Yes,
just
okay.
another form of transparency as well.
And also projects completed, since we're doing it. I'm in favor of it quarterly.
All right. I don't think we need to put that on future agenda, though.
That's fine.
Nope, got it.
May I have a point of privilege before we wrap for the evening?
I'm going to have to learn what that is. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. What I would ask for this commission to consider, and I will bring more information at our November 7th meeting, but I would ask for this commission to consider a resolution in support of Senate Memorial 442 and House Bill or House Memorial 263. These are memorials in support of extending TPS, temporary protected status, for Haitian Americans living here in the United States. That's about 58,000 of them here, and January 22nd will be the looming deadline where these individuals will have to pack up their entire lives and children and move back to a country that is not yet ready to support them, that has recently gone through a cholera outbreak, that has also recently gone through a hurricane, a Category 4 hurricane that hit the island head on. So this country is not yet ready to receive and assimilate 58,000 individuals. So I ask for this commission to consider a resolution in support of these House and Senate memorials that the Florida legislature is sending over to our current president.
When do you want this done? Would it be next November 7th or the second meeting of the month?
Firstly, Commissioner, if you have a draft, if someone else that's done that, you could share
Yes.
with us. And then we could put it on
Seven?
for the next meeting if that's
Okay.
the wish of the commission.
So we'll put that on new business.
Okay.
It's the wish.
Yep. Now can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.